Good evening, everybody. The Selectmen's meeting of September 9th, 2014 is back in from executive session. Take a roll call again, please.
All 5 selectmen are present, as well as town council and town administrator Derek Sullivan.
Announcements, Mr. Titlebaum.
Just one, that if you intend to vote in today's primary, get thee to the polls. They close in about 47 minutes.
Mrs. Whiteside.
Yes, thank you. On October 5th, the Oakdale Association is going to be refurbishing their playground, starting at 10 o'clock. They're looking for people to help them cut brush, paint the playground equipment that's there, and just spruce the place up. The contact person would be Sandra Mendes Sylvia in the town hall office, and Mr. Tropiano is going to be spearheading this particular, I think it's a Sunday, because I will not be available. But I'm sure that they would take anybody who has a couple of hours and want to take a weed whacker to a whole bunch of stuff. Thank you.
Mr. Tropiano.
I have none.
Mr. Holmes.
Just very briefly, my reminder about local businesses, I did get an email from someone. Lowe's, although located in Wareham Crossing, could be considered a local business. However, Lowe's is a big chain business. So there was a gentleman who had a purchase to make and tried to use a local business, and Lowe's wouldn't support a price from another Lowe's, which I found to be very strange. So he just let me know that he bought his item near Boston because this Lowe's wouldn't agree to the price. So he apologized for not supporting local businesses. But I can tell you that if it was from a local business, that local business would have taken care of that. And I do want to just thank my fellow members and town council for calling my mother 2 weeks ago. I apologize for getting sick. But all the tests at the hospital were good, well within range. And I think it's just a matter. I have plenty of sugar here tonight. Mrs. Whiteside now carries first aid equipment in her bag. She did a great job, and I want to thank you and thank the guys from EMS and Toby Hospital. They were all very nice to me. And it just is, diabetes is a very difficult disease, I'm finding out. And I don't know why, I've tried, but I have a lot of trouble with it. So I want to thank everybody, and thank everybody for the notes and the calls and the visits and the emails. And just keep praying that I can get over this. And Mr. Titlebaum, in a way, suffers from the same thing.
Yeah, I'm fortunate that so far I'm relatively asymptomatic, other than one episode when I discovered I had it in the first place.
It's an awful, awful disease to have. So again, thank you very much.
Yeah, so
Yeah, but you're a baby, for crying out
they're
loud.
both the same age.
My problem is that I had the same amount of ice cream and cheeseburgers that a 90-year-old would, but I did it in my first 50 years.
Yeah, but you're young. I mean,
So that's how you get it.
Wait till you get a little older.
Okay. Mr. White has his Wareham coffee hour. Had a break for a while. It's commencing again at 9 o'clock in the morning, September 11th. His guest will be Miss Carol Anderson, published local author and chairman of a family-operated software company. They are meeting in a different location. They're meeting in the community room at Agawam Village on 57 Sandwich Road, Wareham. We have a bunch of nonprofits in town which have a hard time, I think, at times getting their message out when they're running events in particular. I remember, I think it was about probably last week, there was the Cape Verdean group had their annual barbecue, but it really didn't get published enough, and a lot of people missed it and didn't realize. Also, at that same time frame, a day later, we had a doo-wop over at the VFW of Dudley Brown, and we didn't get the word out for that either. So what I'm doing is I'm reaching out to different nonprofits and asking them to contact the Selectmen's office, either by email or fax, whatever you can. Give us some information. We'll put it up on a spot on the town website. We have a calendar on the website anyways, and I'd really like to be able to put things up so when people ask what's going on in town, that's a central source to find out where to go and what to do. Just as a simple aside, this past Sunday, we had 2 events. Stevie Baptiste did his annual Veterans event for the Airborne group. It was over basically down in Onset. It was a very nice affair done at the bandstand, and also the St. Patrick's had their annual barbecue this Sunday as well. And again, these are things that a lot of people would attend if they knew was available to them. So I kind of reach out to everybody and ask them to step up on that. Go ahead, Mr. Holmes.
Mr. Chairman, oh my God, I'm glad you just said that. Somebody will help me out with her last name. But many of you know Maureen, retired school principal, vice principal. Last name. Come on, Judy, help me.
Mrs. Whiteside.
Melissa Drake.
Thank you.
Drake.
Melissa.
I didn't know. This happened while I was on vacation, but you know, she passed away. For anyone who hadn't heard that, I did get a chance to speak with Larry last week for a little while. It was pretty quick. You know, she's been retired for a few years now. She served the town of Wareham. And on the 20th of September, there's going to be a fundraiser down in Onset at the Onset Sports Review. And she always said that she wanted, when she died, well, obviously none of us thought it would be this soon, that she wanted to have a fundraiser and donate all the money to the school department. So they are collecting raffle things, baskets, gifts, certificates. They're going to have they're going to have food there. Be a collection bucket when you get there. They'll be selling raffle tickets. They're going to have music. It's going to be a real nice celebration of her life. And on that day, once the tallies are in, they're going to present a check to the Board of Selectmen, and we will, in her name, we'll do some kind of a photo op so that with Larry maybe, and we'll donate that money to the school department in her name. So, you know, she dedicated many years of her life to educating our kids and working in the school department. I know many of you know her. So if you'd like to donate, it's going to be on September the 20th. And thank you for bringing that up, because I almost forgot, because this is very important. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Steve.
Okay,
Continuing on, I have a few more things, Patrick. Sorry, it's been a couple weeks, so we'll catch up.
Oh, boy.
Wareham, as everybody knows, has had an intern program reaching out to Bridgewater State and the University of Mass at Dartmouth. We do it every year. Basically, the students start to come into us at the beginning of September. For this first semester of the year, we're kind of a little bit under the gun with the DOR, getting all the reports done in time, so we don't have as many people available here due to all the cutbacks, so we can sit and train students and actually watch over them as they learn the system. So we have to be a little more careful what we do. So for this particular spring, what I call fall semester, we have 5 interns that have been placed as of Monday. The interns are, we have one coming into the work at the police department. We have one coming in to work at the school department, at the business office. It's an accounting major. We have one working with the water pollution control facility, who is also an accounting major, looking for a career in water pollution. We have another person that will be working in the GIS with Matt, and also working at the planning board doing GIS maps from Bridgewater State. That's a graduate student. And the last person will be working with the planning board on some background filing of information, getting everything up to date, and then going into the accounting office hopefully in November, and that gives us 5 altogether. So we're looking forward to that as well. Yesterday, the New England Boating Magazine finished up the second part of the series they were doing. This was the magazine that came out, we all saw a while back, which had a nice wide spread on Onset, and part of the deal was they'd come back and do a TV program. Yesterday, I spent 3/4 of the day going around with them walking through Onset, going through the Narrows area, and along the waterfront. Gary Buckminster took them around the waterfront in Onset. So sometime this late fall or early winter, we should have a very nice one-hour TV show featuring the town of Wareham. That's it for me.
All right, next up is citizens' participation. Is there anybody here to speak to us this evening? I see hands.
Right-hand side. Mrs. Dunham? We'll go from one side to the other.
In keeping with the discussion about community events, the Wareham Historical Society is going to have a program this coming Monday, September 15th, 7 p.m. at the Methodist Meeting House. Phil Gomes is going to be doing a presentation on the contributions of the Cape Verdean community to American history, and the public is welcome, invited to come, and I look forward to seeing all of you there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, the other side. Back row, come forward from there. Patricia? Yes, Patricia. Then Mr. Clemmy is next, I think.
Hi, Pat Romney from West Wareham. And I have two things. One is a simple, quick thing, just a note, because I saw that you have on Town Business tonight private roads, and private roads always jumps out at me. So I thought I would tell you, in looking at the list of parking in Onset, one of the streets that, as far as I can read, would have to pay to park in front of their house is a private road. So I just wanted to let you know that. That's, it's Wilmer Avenue, so whoever lives on Wilmer Avenue in Onset, it's a private road. Okay, second thing. The second thing is a question. I was wondering, because I know a couple of weeks ago, maybe over a month ago, you were talking about unfunded mandates. And I was wondering, as a taxpayer, where that's at. Because I remember, Alan, you saying something about, talking to surrounding towns and how unfunded mandates were driving us crazy. So what I did was a little bit of investigation, and there is a department, and I'm sure you know about it, that handles local mandates. And after doing my research and reading, I thought that you can't just go at them blanket. You have to go each one that hits the street, so to speak, and complain about it. Am I reading that right?
Actually, the way it works, I'll answer this just now. Normally, I'd give you an answer later on. The way the state works, the state is not supposed to, when they did Prop 2.5,
Yes.
part of Prop 2.5 said they couldn't have any unfunded mandates. Well, like everything else, that just went by the wayside. We can go and make a complaint, each individual piece, but there's partially funded mandates, there's rule changes, et cetera. I will very quickly say that I had a half-hour meeting with Congressman Keating over at the Maritime Academy last Friday. I sat down and we talked about this particular issue and a couple of other issues with the lack of revenue coming into the towns versus all the expenses that keep increasing. And I've asked for some federal assistance going down the line coming through the state because it just doesn't work for us anymore. I have a
Right.
meeting scheduled with 5 surrounding towns around us for the end of this month to talk about unfunded mandates. So we are moving forward.
The one that I was thinking about today, which was the new gun law that was passed, now says you have to have a police officer in the schools. And I know we dropped them last year because of money, but then I know that the superintendent worked really hard on getting somebody back in again. And now I understand they do have somebody back in, but it would be nice if we could go after the state now to pay for that officer.
It's a nice start. Unfortunately, again, this is just another thing where they pass something with no funding mechanism to go with it.
But there is an avenue to,
There is, but I can tell you we've already gone there, and it doesn't generate anything for us.
Oh, well, I'm sure some of them have won. Some states have won. I do have some paperwork on that.
Some states have. Massachusetts
I mean,
has
not states, towns.
In Massachusetts, it's virtually impossible the way it's going right now.
Okay, that was my question.
No, we are trying hard. We're doing a lot of things as much as we can. It's a real sore spot for me.
I know it is. It is for me, too.
Yeah, you know, we're trying to say no, but it's not easy.
Okay, goodbye.
Thank you very much, Patricia. Mr. Clemmy's next, I think.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have a little introduction I'd like to spiel out to you for a second. My name is Carl Clemmy. This is my son, William. We live at 28 Winship here in Wareham. We have for the last 60 years at the summertime. My wife and I now live here full-time at 28 Winship. We came here 60 years ago, and we're very concerned, and we do support the town of Wareham, as you know. We did start out on Bay Street, we went to Whittemore's Point, and now we're on Burgess Point over here. My family and sons and children, we own 4 houses on Onset Ocean over there. Last week, 2 weeks ago, in the Wareham Courier, there was an article, Government Amended Proposed to Allow Disabled Persons Beach Access. It was sponsored by the Selectmen, and the vote was 4-0-0. And we are going to present from you today a letter from our lawyers. We can give the town council and each one of you. But I would like to turn it over to my son, let him give you an override, and then we can go from here.
Mr. Clemmy, this is a letter doing what? What is the letter?
The letter is a legal opinion from council regarding the legality of the warrant article itself that we'd like to give to the selectmen and town council and town manager.
You can leave it with town council, and that's as far as we can go at that point.
We can't discuss it?
No, sir. Not a citizen participation. Not when it's a legal issue.
What's that?
Not once you bring it up as a legal issue, we cannot.
Well, we haven't brought it up yet.
You
I
have.
want to do that afterwards.
No,
I
you
can
ha-
speak
you
to it and then give it to you if you'd like, sir.
You have right now by saying what you have. At this point here,
It's just a letter, sir. It's
I
not
have to
a,
shut it off, and you can submit it to town council. That's as far as we can go. Under citizen participation, that's it.
It's not our petition, it's your petition. It's your petition.
We have a warrant article that's possibly going into town meeting. That's it.
can I ask a follow-up question, sir?
Go ahead.
Are you going to be discussing this article this evening, do you think, when you discuss the warrant articles?
No, we've already gone ahead and voted to put it onto the warrant.
You've already voted, so there'll be no opportunity for further input on this article until town meeting. Is that what you're saying, sir?
That is correct. That's the system.
Well, that's the system here in Wareham. Well, let me ask you this. How do you go about letting us, where we don't vote here, we're not a voting member, but we're still entitled to our opinion? How do you get on the list so we don't get the runaround? I went into the town hall to get this information 3 weeks ago, and it's almost impossible to get some of this information, as you know. How do we get on the list to speak at the town meeting when we're not residents? Then maybe you've got a different way to do it.
You can request the moderator to see if the town meeting will allow you to speak. It's a standard procedure for all town meetings. Even though you're a non-voting resident, you can
Does
actually
it have
ask.
to be in writing or anything, or we can just?
No, you can, when the actual article comes up, you can basically stand up and ask that request.
And how do we have our attorney? It would be the same thing to have our attorney speak. I know you don't want to discuss it, so maybe we'll wait until after the meeting. This is a kind of a, to be point blank, being in the business for 60 years, it's kind of a bad way for the town of Wareham to be doing business like this when we come in front as a resident and bring it to you, and the only other legal we have is go to court. Now, we can go to court and get an injunction, and then you can pay your town council over here, but we will file the injunction then, not to giving us a representative.
Mr. Clemmy, at that point here, we have to shut off the discussion.
Okay,
Thank you.
but I don't think that's the way to run a business.
That's my letter. Town council. I'm the clerk.
What time?
Anybody else? Thank you.
Saturday
Next.
the 9th, right?
Yep.
Okay, anybody else?
Before we continue, we need to have the door shut so the AC stays in the room.
Please.
Thank you. It's an
All right.
old system and doesn't work well.
Next up, we have appointments. Louise Letourneau, is she here? No? All right, I move we approve and appoint Louise Letourneau as an election poll worker to a term to expire no later than June 30th, 2015.
Second.
Yeah.
Motion by Mr. Tropiano, second by, which one of the two? Mrs. Whiteside. Any questions? None heard, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? 500.
All right, now I have a couple of appointments to the Council on Aging to Board of Directors. I want to appoint Nancy Sawyer and Muriel June Slaney to the Council on Aging Board of Directors to terms to expire no later than June 30th, 2016.
Second.
Either party here? Why don't you come forward for a minute, please? Patrick's got one more after that.
I have two more. I have two more.
You have 3 more.
It's already working.
Quiet. Sorry.
Don't get us in any hot water.
Where's the camera?
Hello,
Hello.
how
Hello.
are you?
Good, how are you? Doing well, thank you.
Why don't you, one at a time, just tell us who you are and why you want to become a member of the Council on Aging?
My name is Nancy Sawyer, and I very much care for the elderly people. With my history, I've taken care of my mom her last 5 years of life. Elderly people are very important to me, and I really, if I can do anything to help them, I see, a lot of the programs have been cut for them, and if there's any way possible we can do something to bring them back, I would love to be able to be part of that and learn also, new things here in Wareham.
Any question from the board, Mr. Titlebaum?
None, but thank you for stepping up and volunteering. It's very much appreciated.
Mrs. Whiteside?
What are you doing tomorrow at 11 o'clock? Tomorrow at 11 o'clock?
And
Could you be at a meeting at 11 o'clock at
Yes,
the
I
Hammond
could.
School?
yes,
Thank you. You know where it is, right? You live on Woburn?
no, I live on Baker's Island Road.
Oh, okay, sorry. The Hammond School building is where
Oh,
the
I can find it.
Boys and
Yeah.
Girls Club is, and you would be in that entrance there at 11 o'clock?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mr. Tropiano?
No, thanks for anybody who volunteers. It's okay with me. Thanks so much.
Mr. Holmes?
Thank you very much.
I have no questions, thank you. The Council on Aging has really been dysfunctional, having a lack of quorum for quite a while, so thank you very much, and you are next.
Yes, I'm Muriel Slaney, and I first became interested in the council when a friend of mine was quite upset about the current situation. And after doing a little research, I find that there is money out there, but it's a matter of going after it. And my primary interest is in fundraising. So that's what I want to do, is go get the money.
Oh, we like that. Outstanding.
I'd ask you the same question. Could you be at a meeting tomorrow at the Hammond School
Sure.
at 11 o'clock in the morning?
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Mr. Titlebaum, we passed you, no? Mr. Tropiano?
Same as before. Thank you
Mr.
for stepping
Holmes?
up.
Thank you.
No questions, thank you very much. I'll take a motion on these two, Patrick.
Already did it. It's
Yeah.
made.
Motion's been made. Seconded.
Motion by Mr. Tropiano, second by Mrs. Whiteside. Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, 500. With
Next up is
Two more.
Francine Belanca. Is she here? Come on down, you're the next contestant.
And Sharon Frank, it looks like.
She also is looking for a seat on the Board of Directors.
Is Sharon Frank here also? Yes, great.
Sharon, you might as well come up too. Two different dates though, so.
Yeah,
I'll do 'em separate.
different terms. Sharon, go ahead. How are you?
I'm Sharon Frank. I live in West Wareham. The citizens of the town of Wareham deserve to have services the same as every other town. And those of us who have been recently affected by the cuts feel that it's going to be up to us to do something about the lack of council on aging, so here we are.
Thanks.
Francine Balanza, onset.
Go ahead.
I'd just like to see some of the services restored to help the elders in Wareham. And if I can be on the board, perhaps I can assist in accomplishing some of those.
Thank you. Mr. Titlebaum?
And once again, thank you for taking time out of your busy lives and agreeing to step up and help the town and the senior citizens out. It's appreciated.
Mrs. Whiteside, go ahead and give them directions.
What's
You're
going to happen at 11 o'clock?
Tomorrow at 11 o'clock, there are several different parties meeting at the Hammond School, and one of the issues in front of the people who are attending is how do we revitalize the Council on Aging? How do we revitalize the programs? There are some people, myself included, who believe that the Council on Aging program should be moved to the Hammond School, which is a town-owned property, and that because there are, there's a playground next to it, there's a kitchen there are nice big huge windows, but it entails money in terms of supporting the programs, but it also entails people with some energy and some interest in moving forward. So I would invite the two of you to the same meeting, and you would be, you would hear what our CETA director, Mr. Sullivan, I believe is, are you going to be able to attend or not?
I'm trying. I have to actually change another meeting for it.
Okay. Mr. Slavin,
We're
myself.
serving German food.
And the, some people from the Boys and Girls Club, which would, be a partnership in some respects. So that's,
I can almost guarantee that the 6 of us who will now be on the board will be there.
thank you so much.
Mr. Tropiano?
I'm all set. Thank you.
Mr. Holmes?
Okay.
Thank you very
Make a
much for coming in.
motion.
All right,
Appreciate it.
I move we appoint Francine Balanza. Is that right? Balanza, hey, all right. To the seat on the Council of Aging Board of Directors to a term to expire no later than June 30th, 2017.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Tropiano, second by Mrs. Whiteside. Any questions? None heard. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? 5-0-0.
I move we appoint Sharon G. Frank to a seat on the Council on Aging Board of Directors to a term to expire no later than June 30th, 2018.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Tropiano, second by Mrs. Whiteside. Any questions? None heard. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? 5-0-0. Thank
Next
you all.
up, Dudley Brown. And we have, for him, we have
Hi,
two
Paul.
one-day
Hi, Paul.
all alcoholic licenses. Let's see, the dates are September 21st and September 22nd. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And it's for the pavilion, I'm assuming?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
We have a rain date on one of the dates too, just in case. The
Um,
9/20 one's got a rain date of 9/28.
It's not on the,
It's on the
Yes,
form
it
I
is.
have.
Rain date, right here.
yeah, I see it on the form, but it's not on the thing we sign, and it has to be on there.
Yeah. Write it in.
Rain date, which one? 28th?
9/20.
Okay. All right, I move we approve the all-day, one-day, all-alcoholic beverage license request from Dudley Brown, Post 2846, 4 Gibbs Ballpark Road, Onset, one-day wine and malt. Okay, so those are all alcoholic. There's also another one, so let's get to that afterwards. For September 21st and September 22nd, between 1 and 9, with a rain date of 9/28, September
Second.
28.
Did you do the hours?
Motion by Mr. Tropiano, second by Mr. Titlebaum. Any questions? Go ahead, Mrs. Whiteside.
Did you do the hours in the motion?
Yes, I did the hours.
Because the hours are different.
I did the hours. And we have one more.
We haven't voted yet. We all set?
Um,
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? 500. Next.
Okay.
Thank you, Paul. Pick up the paperwork tomorrow.
All right, and then we have bartending services. Hi. Hello, how are you?
How are you?
How are you?
All right, so this is for a one-day wine and malt beverage license, and it is at Box Mill Hall in Tyonet Road, on the 20th between 3:30 and 9 p.m.
Correct, yep.
You have everything in order.
Okay, anybody? I have everything. Yeah.
It's all there. Anyone have any questions? Mr. Titlebaum, Mrs. Whiteside, Mr. Tropiano, Mr. Holmes?
I'm sorry? No, I'm Nicole with the Bartending Service of New England. I'm Nicole Phillips with the Bartending Service.
I was going to say congratulations.
You can anyway, I'll take it.
Oh, congratulations.
I'll pass it on.
Okay,
You can forward that to them for us.
I will, I'll do that.
All right, move we approve the one-day wine and malt beverage license request from Bartender Services of New England LLC, P.O. Box 425, Middleborough, Massachusetts, for Tyonet Mill Hall on Tyonet Road, Wareham, for September the 20th, 2014, from 3:30 p.m. to 9 p.m.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Tropiano, second by Mr. Holmes. Any questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? 500. Thank you.
Thank you, have a great night.
You too.
Thank you.
Okay. Next up is the tie and bond approval.
Mr. Campino,
Mr. Campino, you want to come on
just
down?
in case we need you. I believe what we have here is just the actual contract to go ahead and do the analysis and come up with a possible potential different way of doing, instead of EDUs, doing a fixed rate or some system with water usage based.
Yes.
And we've already discussed this at our previous sewer commission meeting, and this is just the actual contract to go ahead and initiate.
I move we approve the contract with Tie and Bond for implementation of the water sewer rate implementation.
I'll second it, but I have a question.
Mrs. Whiteside?
Yes, I would just ask that, has town council review this document? May I ask?
Yeah.
I don't think so.
You have not reviewed this document?
But we sent this over. Mr. Chairman, if I may, I think this has to go to contract. I think this is theirs, but we have to add ours to it. So I believe once we reviews it, then we have to develop an actual contract for signature. There's a lot that has to be added to this. We have standard forms plus other language that would have to be added to this.
We need the sewer commissioners to okay that we can enter into the contract, then working with town council, myself, we finalize all the details. I don't think you guys are signing this one right now, are you?
No, there's no signature.
No, there's no
Correct.
signature.
No.
What I
So-
think we should do is, if the board so chooses, to go ahead and allow to enter in with the stipulation the town council signs off, et cetera. Mrs. Whiteside?
I'd like that stated more clearly, please.
Do you want me to make a motion?
Please.
Why don't you go ahead and do that?
I move that the Board of Selectmen authorize the town administrator and town council to begin discussions with Tie and Bond relative to developing a contract for the board's review pursuant to a sewer implementation plan.
I'll second that, I guess.
Yeah.
I'll second that.
That's all
Motion
there
by
is.
Mr. Titlebaum, second by Mrs. Whiteside. Any questions?
Hand up from
Mr.
Selectman Holmes.
Holmes?
Mr. Chairman, you know, use the words of my friend, 2 seats over. I mean, how much longer are we're gonna, I won't use his words. How much longer are we gonna do this? Look, just on the surface, we have a not to exceed number, which I like to see, and I don't have an issue with that. What I do have an issue though is, when I look at the deliverables in this, and I really, and I apologize for not reading this thoroughly, I don't know when I got it. But we feel that a 6 months is a reasonable time frame for this project. I don't accept that. I reject that out of hand. That's bull. We've been working with these guys, I forget when we started, but it was certainly before this board was seated. And we brought them in. They've done a great job so far. I like the work they've done. But now, at the end, when we're trying to move something forward, and all we want to know now is we're paying for guidance on an implementation plan. That's what we're looking for. And to say now that we're in September, there's going to be another 6 months to put an implementation plan together, I think that's unacceptable. They have all our information. They have all our numbers. They've given us 2 presentations on how to do this. They've given us the options on how to do this. And now to tell us it's going to take 6 months to suggest an implementation plan that they probably already have in a computer somewhere.
Mr. Chairman, if I
change
may.
it to Wareham, and I do this for a living.
No, I
They're going to
understand.
change it to Wareham. They're going to adjust a few things, and they're going to present it back to us. And that doesn't take 6 months. So I'm not happy. I don't believe that 6 month thing is. This is something we're trying to move on.
Mr. Campino?
Mr. Chairman, through you, I think there's a piece here that we really don't consider. It's called the Industrial Pretreatment Program that Town of Wareham does not have. And that talks about the actual product that each business will bring to us, what the impact of that product is to the sewer plant, and then the actual figuring out what we're going to charge each individual industry going forward. So that's a piece that Wareham doesn't have. So you can plug in numbers, that basic numbers, but to do the finite, which would be an IPP program, it will take 6 months at the earliest. So that's I think that's a piece that we really need to consider.
I understand there might be some work to be done. Oh, I hope there would be some work to be done.
There's a lot of work to be
Because we're paying
done.
$41,000
It's quite a bit of work
for
to be
this.
done. Yeah.
So,
I'm sorry. That's me. I'm sorry. That's me. So I'm sorry.
I hope there would be some work to be done because we're paying a lot of money for this, but we're looking for, to be clear, what we're looking for is we're hiring these folks to suggest to the 5 people sitting here what an implementation plan looks like so that we can vote to move forward.
No,
Unless I'm misreading something.
I think you're moving to implement. I think you've already agreed as a board that you want to implement a hybrid rate paying. Because if you read the header here, it says, we understand the town has decided to pursue transition to a sewer fee that is based on a combination of water use and a fixed fee. So I think that's, if either we do or we don't.
Let me just stop for a minute. What we've done is we're looking at an alternative from what we do now with the EDUs, because if we stay where we are, we've got to go in and completely revamp what happened in 1996 with the EDUs, because they really don't work, they don't make sense.
Right.
We're taking other products in, so we really need to go before our stakeholders and go ahead and present a couple different options, and then as sewer commissioners, we have to make a decision. You know, yes, the board here has an inclination that they would like to go maybe to a fixed use base with a usage based on that, but until we see actual numbers to see what, you know, household A pays now versus what they would pay with a change, we need to know where we're at, because my point of view anyways is I am not going to sit and vote for something unless I know what the effect is going to be on our taxpayers in an overall basis. If we end up with some people paying a little and some paying more, fine. But we may put a burden on certain people that they can't do. So we have to take a look at this. And we don't have any program in front of us that we can implement to even look at those numbers right now. And that's what this is supposed to be for. They gave us a basic idea of what to do, but they haven't given us the actual, what I would call, not formula, but the actual program of how it would actually be implemented. There's a lot of variables in doing this. It's not a simple, you use 10,000 gallons, you get charged so much, anything over that is a fee. Go ahead, Patrick.
All right. So I appreciate the support in trying to get this accomplished relatively quickly. But to be honest with you, Steve, there is a lot of moving pieces on this that we discussed. And one of the pieces is establishing the different types of effluent that's coming to us. And, because that makes a big difference. What we get from a company and what we have to treat makes a big difference. If we get, industrial waste from somebody, we have to know, we have to have a different rate for that. You can't charge the same rate because it costs a lot more to treat. So whatever it is, and that has to be established, and we really got to create that plan. A guy and I talked about that. And you know what? And they were talking February, March, and that's really not that bad. That's spring. We're just about around, I mean, that's gonna go by relatively quickly. We'll be around the corner before you know it. And I'm not, for you to feel comfortable, I wouldn't want it to see it get any further out than that. You know what I'm saying? So I think I'd hold them to the timetable and move ahead on that. But I wish you would kind of I think this is a good thing for you to go along with, if you would.
Yeah, I am supporting.
Yeah, no,
it.
and
I'm
I
just trying to
appreciate
get
that.
it- I'm trying to get that window of time down. Don't we have, Mr. Chairman, if I might? Don't we already have all these numbers that we did over the last 6 or 8 months? In all those reports we saw in the graphs and the charts? We
No,
don't have
and
those
the other
numbers.
issue we have,
This level, we don't have this level.
the other issue that we have as well, you gotta remember that some of the people that we will be dealing with, and there are a few, still have well water. So we have to establish a system for that as well, because
I
obviously
just don't want it to run
we
on
won't have a
forever.
well number, so we might have to talk about whether they're gonna do flow meters, or what the plan is gonna be for those individuals. And if I'm not mistaken, it's a very small percentage, but still, it has to be dealt with. So there is a lot gonna go into this plan if we want it to be right. And I have a sneaky suspicion that there'll be more than one idea.
Well, we
when
want
they-
it to be
when they
right.
get to the end
We
of
want to
it.
get this right. I
Right.
agree with you there.
Okay?
Okay, Mr. Titlebaum.
One of the problems that I think confuses us and probably confuses the public even more is that we've been looking at this, as Selectman Holmes says, for a long time. I think there's a very strong consensus on this board. I think if you polled us each one by one, we would say at this point in time, we support moving away from the EDU system to a blended combination water usage and fixed fee system. But I think until we actually go on the record with that, it makes it difficult for us to move forward. So I would almost ask that that be put on as an agenda item next week, when we're doing this for our sewer meeting, to just go on the record for once and for all, count off, do a roll call vote. It might even be better. And have each of the 5 of us state whether we believe that this is the way to go or not. I think if nothing else, the public should be reassured that we think that before we go ahead and commit to the idea of spending 41 grand to investigate that. I think that's important. Would you be amenable to doing that?
That's fine. The problem we have, and the problem, that even if we had a different set of sewer commissioners, is that none of us are, except for Patrick, really have any skills in the area. So you're asking us to go ahead and come up with a program which is going to take some background from someone else as well. I know you're shaking your head, but
Well, I think
you're making a long-term change in decision for the town.
Oh, it is, and it's been time-consuming, and I don't think it's been wasted time. What I would say, though, is that one of the jobs of a consultant is to educate the board that they're reporting to. And I think, through osmosis or something, some of it sunk into my thick skull. I'm hoping the same has with everybody else here. And so I think we can say with some confidence what it is that we support and why we support it.
Yeah.
Which I think is the most important thing when it comes to making a decision of that nature.
Mrs. Whiteside.
I think we all agreed that we wanted to explore the possibilities and that we wanted the numbers, the hard numbers, before we made a decision. I think what this does is provides us with more hard numbers that would educate us further onto the impact. This is not agreeing to either go with it or not go with it. It is to provide information for us to be able to make that educated decision. Is that
That
your
is correct.
understanding of what,
Yes, you are. What they're doing is they're going to provide you with an implementation plan. Whether you implement it or not is your call, but you'll have all the numbers, all the plans specific to what you're asking for. When it's all said and done, you sit here and say, I like it, I don't like it, modify it, whatever you choose, and then we move forward. Yes, ma'am.
That's exactly right.
That's what we're
thank
talking
you.
about.
And just so everybody knows, we actually tried to start the implementation of this, or this go from the one rate to another, back in 2000. 14 years ago.
We're a little slow-moving sometimes.
You can't blame all of us for that.
Yeah, yeah, no.
Okay, so we're back to, I'll put that on the agenda, town council will look at, but basically, we want to go ahead and give, but we want to go ahead and just vote to go ahead and allow town council and town administrator to enter
Enter
the
into a
contract.
contract, absolutely.
That's all, at this point. Take a motion for that.
I
please.
move that we allow town council, actually, allow
think we
the
have-
town administrator, because that's his job, with guidance from town council, which I'm sure he will get as he needs it, to enter into a contract with Ty and Bond.
Sewer commissioners.
Point of order, I think we already had that motion before us, before we embarked on this discussion.
Right, we did.
Did we have a first and a second?
Yes, he made the motion and I made the second. I think
Okay,
the
I take
motion,
that back. Any questions?
I think you need to read the specific contract number into the record because,
Well, no, because
No, there is no contract.
there is no contract.
well, what is this?
That's
Just
just
a
the
proposal.
number,
Proposal
the
number?
proposal
Okay.
The
number.
proposal.
Doesn't mean
It's
anything.
not a contract.
There'll be a contract when the town administrator negotiates it.
Yeah.
Okay,
All
thank
those in
you.
favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained, 500. Thank you. Thank you,
Awesome.
Guy.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks,
And thanks
Guy.
for the
See you tomorrow.
intern.
may I ask?
Thank
You're
you.
welcome, and enjoy
3 months
Dr.
though, right?
Poop
3
again.
months?
I'm sorry?
But you can press them for 3 months. I'm just kidding.
Oh, okay. Yes.
Guy,
All right, next up,
Guy, when the intern comes in, make sure he goes and sees Barbara to fill out some paperwork before he starts.
He's coming on a weekend, so
Okay.
I will have to get the information from Barbara to give him.
And he
I'll
can
fill
fill
out
it
the
out.
plan. Yes, yes, that's what I'll do.
Okay.
Thank you.
And you also have to take care of his hours submitting through Judy in the accounting office.
Yes, we're already setting that up. Yes, we absolutely. Thank you.
She has the forms.
all right, so next is private road update.
This one here is a continuation from Mrs. Whiteside. This isn't really discussing private roads per se, except Mrs. Whiteside's been working with a couple other volunteers, to come up with a list of public and private roads.
Yes, the volunteer is ready to meet with town administrator and whoever else he deems appropriate to go over the findings of the report so far. It is not appropriate to bring that to the public until Mr. Sullivan has had an opportunity to look at it, Mr. Menard and other people as well. But it will be available to you by next Monday.
When would you like to reschedule approximately?
That would be up to Mr. Sullivan.
Okay, you let me know when you're comfortable with that, please. Next item is the Everett School update. That's Mr. Sullivan, Mr. Mr. Pino.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I've asked Mr. Pina to come forward on this as we've gone over some of the information, and he's been doing a lot of work, and I appreciate it. So,
Thank you. Thank you. I have with me Pastor David Shaw, who is from the Emmanuel Church of the Nazarene, and he's also the chairman of the board of the Wareham Area Committee for the Homeless. I reached out to Pastor Shaw with regard to a concept that town administrator and I had been chatting about in the Everett School, about a way to use the Everett School. And the thought was that perhaps we could renovate the Everett School and then turn the Everett School over to a group of private nonprofits that would then be responsible for the ongoing costs to keep the school open and essentially bring them together. So that was the concept. So as we chatted about that, the town administrator asked me, did I have any nonprofits that I thought would be in mind? So I reached out to Pastor Shaw, and they gave me a recommendation of a number of nonprofits that they thought might be interested and willing to do that. So some of those include Turning Point, South Coast Health Systems, which provide some food stamps and some work with Mass Health, South Shore Housing, potentially DTA, which doesn't have a home here, and possibly even the folks from the Career Center, which are interested in coming to do some work here in the area. So I asked Pastor Shaw to come with me to give some of his views on it. The response that I got was that if there was a good synergy, that they would be able to afford to cover costs. If we would, in particular, we could do some of the repairs. And in talking with town administrator, I informed him that community development block grant funds would be an eligible use of community development block grant funds. So if the council, if the Board of Selectmen is interested in keeping that building and renovating it, it was a possibility.
Mr.
I'd like to just ask Pastor Shaw to just make a few comments on it.
Go ahead, sir.
In the last couple of years, there's been some very healthy partnership discussions between some of these organizations that Mr. Pina mentioned, all of whom have some interest in addressing the issue of homelessness and near homelessness. And one of the things that we're finding is that improved communication would really help us all be more effective in bringing the services that we provide to these people. So having a number of these different kind of agencies or organizations in the same building would really improve communication. So I think that's a great idea.
And I'd like to just add one other thing too, because the building capacity for our nonprofits in this area, I think, is a really important focus for us all. I don't think there's as strong capacity as could be here. I've reached out also to the Center for Nonprofits, which is Stonehill College has an arm of the college, which is the Center for Nonprofits, and they provide assistance to nonprofits to build capacity, to help identify funding sources and those kinds of things. They would be willing to come down and work with various nonprofits here too. And I'd like to add that there are other nonprofits like, that we fund through the Community Development Block Grant, like the literacy program that was at the library that potentially might not have that same space. So there are other opportunities available outside of these ones that we've mentioned today.
Mr. Sullivan?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, if I may, this is, if you will, this is an extension of the consolidations that we often talk about in the partnerships. It's not just within the private sector or within our own departments. It's reaching out to the nonprofits, because often they have a mission and a goal that coincides with what our residents need. And as our revenue dollars are not expanding as fast as our expenses, we are offering less and less to those that need it most. And this is one of the ways that we can help bring in not just the nonprofits that are already working hard within our community, but attract others from the outside. And if you will, it's essentially a cost-saving way to bring more of the services that we need in this town for our residents.
Thank you.
So.
This was originally on an agenda item earlier. We brought it back up. Basically, we gave about a little over a month's time to discuss what the best use of the property be, whether to sell it or reuse it. And that's what we basically tasked Mr. Sullivan with, was to take a look at what he could come up with and come back to us. So I'd like to thank everybody here. I would now ask the board members, Mr. Titlebaum, any questions?
None. I'm looking forward to hearing more about this.
Mrs. Whiteside?
I have two. One is, do we have a ballpark in terms of renovation figure?
Yeah, I mean,
the old
absolutely.
dollar sign
No, I knew
question.
you were going to ask that, and I'm very excited to tell you that we have recently replaced our rehab specialist, Dick Longton, with a gentleman by the name of Dan Gifford. Turns out Mr. Gifford also is an architect. And so I'm going to be bringing him over to the Everett School with me to do an assessment and help me try to get a sense of what those costs are. So as soon as I can do that, I'll make those available to you.
Because we know the roof is...
Absolutely,
Okay.
yeah.
And the second question is going to sound off the wall. How are your daughters? The first time I ever appeared on YouTube was because of one of your daughters.
They're all thriving. Thank you very much.
Wonderful. They were a pleasure to teach.
Thank you.
Mr.
In spite
Tropiano?
of me, yeah.
I'm all set, thank you.
Mr. Holmes?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think that, you know, one of the things that Sal and I, Sal and Sal, here we go again, Sal. And Pastor, thank you very much for your interest in this venture. So I'm very interested in this. But, you know, Sal and I have talked for a couple of years now, and one of my pet peeves that I'm trying to steer off is we have all these buildings that we own in this town. Some of them are under the school department authority, some are under the town, some are under this one, some are under that one. In the normal course of events, what happens is a school department, and I'm not picking on any one department now, a department has a building, right? And they use that building until it's a disaster. And then they turn around and they say, we're going to move to another building. Okay, town, you got this. And then we sit here and you all work to find ideas for the use of these buildings. And the roadblock is usually, okay, how do we make this even livable or workable for y'all to put programs in the buildings? So I'm hopeful, and I'll pray that we can find the initial dollars, because it would be fantastic to keep them if they can maintain themselves and put them to a good use. And you know, Sal, that's where I come from. So that's good. You know, and I think that as a town, and this Board of Selectmen, who are the town, need to start looking. I know the Hammond School is another one that you and I had a beautiful business plan down there, and then we couldn't get the building, we could not, you know. And these are the types of things we need to start intervening earlier with these properties and start to work closer with our brothers who own buildings so we don't run into this, because maybe we can get a building before it gets in such a state of repairs that now we have to come up with a large number to fix it. It's a good thing the guy can do both. But, you know, I heard some estimates that it was going to cost quite a bit of money to fix that. Now, and when you said that there is some grant money available for that cost, would that come out of the annual community development grant? Or are these additional dollars like the ones we were talking about with the Hammond School?
No, I think what makes sense to me would be in February, we'll be putting in our 2015 grant, which we will receive next October. Now, usually we have one big project, for example, the streetscape that we've been doing each year. We could target that as one of the projects, and we could write the grant to generate the dollars to do the renovations.
So you think that it would have to come out of there?
I would think that a good chunk of it is, but
I seem to recall when we were talking about the Hammond School, and I'll cut this short, guys, but I just want to get to the point. When we were talking about the Hammond School, remember? Because we were going to use the building for outreach, we were going to use the building for some charity stuff, we were going to make a couple of bucks here and there, education, right? We're talking about the same use here in this school. I mean, is there a way that we can reach out to funds that are outside of that community grant? Because now you know what people are going to say. Oh, you got downtown all tore up, you're making a building, now you're going to take money from there and put it into an old
You know, I can
building,
always
right?
look into that. The EDF fund, which is another fund that DHCD has, is often used for renovating buildings, but they have generally housing and/or job creation as their outcomes. So if there's a way to tie that in, that's a possibility. So certainly we can look at that.
So we would have people managing the different charity groups that are in there. There may be some opportunity for some employment for counselors or, right? So just like in the other show, Sal, you know, we might be able to, if we can fund it through those dollars without having to take stuff you've already earmarked,
Sure.
That would be the,
I will
that would be
certainly
the
do-
cat's meow right there. if we
I will
could
certainly
that.
do my research to see if there's
I
other
know you will,
alternatives.
but I want to make that point that I think at some point in the next 6 or 8 months, we all need to sit down and look at every building we own and say, is this under the right custodianship? Is it being used?
Mhm.
Because there's a lot of this stuff that we can be doing.
Mhm.
But we can't do it because somebody just has a building that, in most cases, they're not really using the full
Right.
capacity. So thank you very much, and Pastor, thank you for
You're welcome.
your time and effort again. Thank you.
Basically, at this point here, I think we should just, if the board wants to vote or not, but I think we just want to go ahead and continue moving forward to see what we can put together. A lot of times you sell a building, you get cash, and it's one time, and it really doesn't generate much. And if we can basically put something together that has a long-term sustainable life,
Mhm.
I'd much rather see that than even $250,000
Sure.
right now for a one-time deal.
Yeah, and now, like I said, I'll be happy to see if I can get an estimate of the costs, and then maybe we can try to put a pro forma together. We can look at what the past costs were for, I mean, one of the other nice things, and I should mention this because I think this is really important, whenever we have an opportunity to renovate a building, one of the things that we try to do as best we can is make that building more green. So we look at ways to cut energy costs, right? You know, replacing, old heating systems, windows, roofs, all kinds of ways in which we can reduce the cost to maintain the building. So, and HUD's a big fan of doing that on any projects that you have, of a project this size.
Solar on the roof.
So there you go, yeah. And those could be very creative ways in which we could do it.
Any other questions from the board? Go ahead, Mr. Holmes.
Just real quick, and then if we were able to pull this off, right, then that building would turn to, like our other projects, it would turn under Cedar. It would go to Cedar.
It would
to
not
manage.
necessarily, the town could lease it, like usually you lease it for $1 or some small amount to one entity who serves as the custodian of the building.
Right, but the way you envision something, this project, Sal,
Mhm.
it would be under the day-to-day management of Cedar, like the
Mhm.
other properties.
We would
and
be
the other
happy to
programs.
take that responsibility if the town
That's
so
what- that's
thought that was wise.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
All
you,
set.
appreciate it.
Thank you very
both, I
much.
appreciate it.
We'll see you tomorrow, Sal,
See you at 11 o'clock.
11 o'clock.
Okay, next up is the discussion, RE policy 0801.
Mr. Tropiano, this is yours.
Well, it's not really mine.
Well, yeah.
It's not really mine, it's,
It's ours.
it's a policy that a previous board instituted that, without reaffirming by each board, can't stand.
Right.
Because it's actually, we're giving up some of our charter rights. So, it has to be dealt with in that method. I'm not so sure, as I read through this, and that this is the perfect venue. Did you look at this? Have you reviewed this, Town Council? Rich? Richard? Oh, okay. Because he did have some input into how he thought this should take place. But at any rate, this policy would have to be affirmed every year by whatever board is sitting. Obviously, if it's the same board sitting, we wouldn't have to reaffirm it. But it would, because, like I say, we're allowing certain things to happen that each selectman has the right to deal with because it's a charter right. And we're giving up some of our rights, or just not giving up our rights necessarily, but allowing something to take place.
Mr. Bowen, I think also, doesn't this require a unanimous vote of the board as
Yes.
well?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for the patience, Selectman Tropiano. Yeah, the charter is very clear about the rights that the board has, and it's fine for the board in a unanimous fashion to I'll say delegate its rights away on particular issues, because then everyone agrees. But the problem is as boards turn over, and new members come in, new members are not aware of old policies that involve delegation. This is the type of thing that if you're going to have these types of policies where you're delegating your rights under the charter, they need to be reviewed annually, and they need to be approved by unanimous vote.
Mr. Titlebaum.
To that point, really, and I think this might satisfy Mr. Tropiano's concern, it should be done subsequent to each April election, right under reorganization of board. There should be an item for whether to retain rights, all rights, or to dismiss some of them under this policy. And I think that would take care of the problem if we got boards in the habit of doing that.
I think that would be good, except that you couldn't do it that first week because the individual coming in may not have any clue, of what's going on. So they would need maybe a week or two to get up to speed. So you might have to make it, say, 2 weeks out, then to have it right then and there, because, basically a new individual comes in, a lot of times they have no clue what selectmen even do, as we all know. They get here, they get voted, they have no idea, and they come up here, and all of a sudden you hand them this thing and say, well, okay, we're going to vote to, this charter issue, and you look at them like, huh?
Yeah, we've all seen the amateur hour here before.
Okay, you know what I mean? Like, okay, and then later on they might decide they didn't like that so much. So I think you'd probably need a week or two for them to at least review it and understand what's being accomplished. But at any rate, this isn't on for a vote today. It's not on here to vote on. But at some point we should vote on it. I think there's a couple of things that should be added to this. Or more clearly defined, and one has to do with department heads. And the reason why I say that is because basically no one comes for us for approval. The clock ticks. The board would have to decide to take it up as a whole board, which means any one individual selectman wouldn't have the right to talk about it or bring it up or do anything about it. It would come in front of us, and we would say, okay, yeah, we want to do it, or we don't want to do it, and technically you'd get no say. I mean, that's really how it's written. So I think it needs a little tweaking, and I'd like to tweak it a little bit. When it comes to department heads,
When would you like to come back with it?
I think I could have it ready next week. Is that okay? Is that all right?
2 weeks.
Next
2
week's
weeks.
still a week.
2 weeks, still a week. Okay, so 2 weeks. Because there's just a few things I want to tweak. I'll bring it to Rich. I'll text it to you. Send it off to you in email form, and you can see if it fits and if it works.
When you get your piece, you can just forward it to the board, just as
Yeah, and I'll forward to you guys.
just as an FYI with no response.
Yeah.
please.
Yeah, we can't have any
And
of those responses.
I will schedule it as a discussion and possible vote.
A possible vote, perfect.
Go ahead, Mr. Holmes.
All right.
Yeah, and Patrick, if you wouldn't mind when you do that,
Yep.
tell me what's different. I'm not seeing much.
Yeah.
I don't see much that's different when I read through this. And Alan pointed out one thing here about any no permanent. If you could just tell us what's different, yeah.
Okay. All right.
Because this doesn't seem like much of a difference to what goes on now.
No, that's exactly
This is
the same.
current.
That is the current one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what do we, I'd like to know what we're changing. if we're
Right.
changing.
Okay.
Please.
Okay.
Thank
Yes, sir.
Next up,
Next up is vote on the town agreement with the Lakeville Animal Shelter.
we had already gone through it, and basically, town council, I believe, had looked at it as well. We sent it back to Lakeville. They did sign it, so now we just have to reaffirm it, that we have the actual final contract, if you want to call it that.
All right, I
Move to
move.
approve.
Second.
We sign the agreement with the Lakeville Animal Shelter.
We're already past you, Patrick.
You what? Did you?
The two of
did-
us are already
just did
past you.
Motion by Mrs. Whiteside, second by Mr. Titlebaum.
That's very nice.
Any questions?
Yeah.
None heard, all in
Sign.
favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, 500.
That was very nice of you.
That was speech.
Vote to put articles on the fall town meeting warrant.
Here we go.
I don't have any, though.
You should have a,
Town Department of Housing, I got nothing here in the packet.
You don't have one?
No, there's nothing in the packet itself, in the clerk's packet. I have one of those, obviously, of my own.
Well,
go ahead.
do you have the one with the red, starred red?
I have the one with the starred red.
I have one with the starred red as well.
You
So
do?
obviously they prepared starred red ones for all of us. You have one with starred red, so you can at least know which motions to go through, which are.
Hold on, I'm gonna tell you right now.
If not, I can whip one up for you.
You can whip one up?
Let's not go there.
What, you can star something red? Yeah, that's yours, but I need
Okay.
one.
We're giving it to you.
I need one because there's not one in the thing here.
There is now.
I'm gonna put it into the official record.
You fix it for me.
All right. Go ahead. I want red ink. If I don't get red ink, I'm not. I'm kidding. Did we already vote the red ones in? Is that what it is? Did I miss this last week?
Yeah.
So the red ones are in from last week, is that what it is? The week I missed? Oh, look at that. Icebreaker mints. I don't know what that means. Hey, look, she's got, you got more stuff in that bag. How come that don't open? Do you turn it or something?
This,
That was tough.
I don't know,
I
they,
like
they
what
got
you're doing.
renumbered. The only ones, I knew that there was 3 from the school that are in the warrant that,
Yeah, I don't know, they got number 6 going off track. We're reading to Article 5.
What happened to my pen?
Article 6, free cash, Article 6, free cash. You don't know which one is correct. When we don't know something is left off. We're gonna have to compare each and every one of them here.
Where's my pen?
Okay, sewer system at Swiss Beach was Article 6 on the new one.
It was just here. Did you throw it off the corner?
We don't have that on the old one, so
That's where it went. You took
we'll
it.
go with the new numbering, since everybody has it.
Yeah, they sent us an updated version and they added the new numbers.
So
It's kind of like the
7
Three
is
Stooges up here, guys.
Yes,
8.
it is.
All right, let's go.
Just take the old one we had
The
from the
speech
prior
is
week.
9.
I got right here.
That has the ones that
Amend
we voted on.
wetland is 10.
So
We
all the
already
stuff
did
with the
vote on
stars,
Have been voted on.
we have been voted on?
Yes,
All right, so we need to vote on the others, is that what we're saying?
that's correct.
All right, so I have Article 4 next.
Just
Why don't we
use the
go,
red.
if we can, I think, see if we have any CPC and CEC, because the people are here waiting. Let's get them in and out. Yep.
Well, she's coming up for that, right? Is she coming up for that, or? All right. Come on down. Angela.
Okay, just go through the CPC articles that we have.
No, we're just going off the red one.
Evening, George.
We'll
Angela.
share. Grouch.
What?
Jesus.
I heard that.
I hope they'll
Did
do
he
it.
just call you a grouch? I heard that.
Actually,
All right.
we got Four Stooges and something else.
All right, here we go. Go ahead.
Four Stooges and a grouch.
Present away.
There was one CPC article
So it
left
should be
to
right here, right?
discuss. That was the Parker Mills, which I gave you all a handout this afternoon, this evening,
Did I get
excuse
that
me.
wrong?
It's for
Um,
$835,000 for the preservation of the Parker Mill Dam located on Elm Street in Wareham.
Yes.
Parker
CPC had
Mill.
not voted to put that on the warrant, even though it was a placeholder, because we were waiting for information on how it would be funded. And so last Thursday, a meeting took place with several town officials and town council, and they discussed with Mr. Foster how it would be funded. So we came up with some new wording. That's one of the pages on the packet that I gave you, on the two-page
Okay.
handout that I gave you. And then we were waiting for Mr. Foster to confer with his, the bonding company. That company came in today with the language that they require to be placed on the warrant. So it's been tweaked at this point in time, probably about a dozen times between CPC and today. And so you have it in your hands, the latest and greatest.
Awesome.
Mr. Bowen could answer more about how that was set up than I.
All right, so what's your pleasure?
I am respectfully asking that it be placed on the warrant. Of course, again, that is dependent on you folks and Mr. Sullivan and Mr. Bowen and how you want to proceed. But we have voted it, we have voted 6-0-0 in support of that. It has to do with the Parker Mills Dam because it is a Class 1 endangered.
All right. I
site.
move we put,
Before we go ahead, the question is here, have we straightened out all the, as far as the funding source, the borrowing, et cetera? I believe John said we could go ahead and pay the loan, pay the state loan.
Yeah, we were all at the same meeting, everything.
Yeah, I just want to make sure
worked
everybody
out.
understands that we're getting, this is part of that $1 million state program, I think.
Yeah, the behind it, we received a grant, if you will, from the state for dam and seawall repairs. The overall grant was $1 million, of which $165,000 was a true funded grant, and the rest was $835,000 in a low-interest loan of 2%. And unfortunately, with our revenues, as much as a low-interest loan is a very nice offering, we can't afford to pay it back from the general fund. And that's where we need community preservation to come in and help make sure that that we can afford this. It is allowable, especially for if you look at it, the dam is essentially the Tremont Nail building as well. It's what's held right there. So that's what we're seeking to do.
it's not on here.
It's that separate sheet, Patrick, that they gave us.
No, I know, I'm talking
So-
about.
It's on there also.
So you're suggesting that we go ahead and
She could have written
put
this
the
on the
specific
6th.
wording on the,
I would recommend that we put this on there because we have, as the town, of no other way to afford this, and it needs to be done.
thank you.
What it ends up as, it will cost CPC approximately $50,000 a year on a 20-year note. We can pay that note back at any time we want, with no pre-penalty. So if they go 5 years in and they have enough funds, they can just go ahead and pay it off at that point if they like it, or go 10 years or whatever. But right now, the actual cost of the town is about, through the CPA program, is about $50,000 a year out of CPA funds, which we're generating somewhere in the range of $530,000 a year. If the state continues to throw in the extra $25 million, we usually will generate somewhere between $750,000 and $900,000 a year in CPA funding. So I don't see any issue.
And you have actually an updated version which bond council has put together, which we appreciate their help.
Okay.
I move we add the CPC article for the $835,000 for the preservation of the Parker Mills Dam located on Elm Street. Total of $835,000 as presented.
Using the language
From bond
provided
council.
from bond council. Second.
Motion by Mr. Tropiano, second by Mrs. Whiteside. This is Article number 28 on the new version. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? 5-0-0. Thank you.
Thank you. I believe that takes care of all the
I think that
CPA
cleans us up.
articles, okay?
The other piece to this, though, is you're gonna need to get the motion language to the Finance Committee and also the town moderator for review.
Yes,
Yeah,
I'm
the newest
awaiting
version is 28.
information from you folks as to when you have. I don't know if you're going to have a joint meeting?
Yeah, we're gonna get to that later on the agenda, but we're gonna try to schedule that, I think. No?
We gotta, I'll discuss it later when we have come up with the item on that.
Okay.
We should determine if we're going to...
Maybe it's not one-stop shopping, I don't know.
We will be attempting, but I'm not sure we're gonna be able to do it.
Is there anything else to put on there?
Yeah.
Should I send,
Gotta go down the list.
should I send a request to both committees then to be placed on their on your agendas to discuss these, or wait to hear from you about how you're going to proceed? To request
I would
that?
go ahead and move it along.
Okay.
To
My
both.
understanding is next week they're going to begin from the Finance Committee meeting on the warrant articles, and we can have you put on board right away. I don't think, I hate to speak for the Finance Committee and the chair, but I don't think they would mind us having this out of order.
No, we hadn't done all the rules.
This is something that we need to get taken care of, so.
Then I'll send out an email and make that request to be placed on their agenda, and also to your board, CC, on that same, yep. Thank you.
And thank you very much for all the help.
Board of Selectmen have to approve putting things on the warrant to go forward.
Okay, thank you.
And the amount of effort that goes behind it, I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Let me know if you need anything else.
Thank you.
When we set the,
Yeah, but we didn't approve the articles themselves. They get submitted to us 2 weeks ago, and then we start going over them to put them on the warrant. Then we-
Next, please.
set the placeholders and all that?
Yeah, but we didn't approve any of them. We just,
Really? I thought we had approved them all.
okay,
Okay, so the next one will be Article 4 isn't on yet, right?
let's do CEC article. That's Community Events Committee.
You want to do CPC?
CEC, Community Events Committee.
What number is this? Why do we have to jump around? Why can't we just start at the
Only
beginning?
start in the beginning, yeah.
Why don't we just start
Well,
at the
because we
beginning?
have two people waiting for the CEC. It'd be
Well,
nice
but
to-
all
it's
right.
only going to take a few minutes.
Yeah, it might take longer. He's got a point.
That's right.
Yep.
Yeah, I
Yep.
mean, it's going to take 5 seconds to decide to put these on. Let's start at the beginning. Article 4. Transfer of funds to fund the parking kiosk program. I move we put that on the warrant.
Second. It's a
Yeah,
tie.
I'll go right through.
Motion by Mr. Tropiano, second by Mr. Holmes.
Aye.
Hold on a second. Town Administrator,
Kiosk.
kiosk transfer funds, are we all set with that? You had that on hold last time.
Yeah, I would push that one through. We'll have the whole program
Any
for you.
questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, 400.
All right, I move we put on the free cash to stabilization fund article that we
Motion by
typically
Mr.
have on.
Tropiano, second by Mr. Holmes. Mr. Sullivan, any issue there?
None.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, 400.
I move we put on the sewer system upgrade for Swiss Beach.
Here's the problem. That got numbered Article 6. We have two number 6s.
Yeah, no, but it's been
It's
changed.
now number 7
It's now
on
7.
the new version.
There's a newer version. You just missed it. Doesn't matter what number. They're gonna fix the numbers anyway, so that doesn't matter.
This is the
All
newest
right.
version, which they have
We
the
just
school
need to put it
articles.
on. Don't worry about the numbers.
Motion by Mr. Tropiano, second by Mr. Holmes. Do we have any questions on the project itself, since it's not much in there? It just says a sum of money to borrow to rehabilitate.
We're gonna have a presentation and we'll have the money. All the blanks will get filled in.
Right, we're also, I believe also, I also believe next week we're gonna hear more about this from
Yes, we are.
Mr. Campina, and so.
We actually have all the numbers.
You do?
Yep. We have all the numbers, we have all the layouts, we have everything.
Okay.
Any other questions? None heard. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? 400.
Okay, the rescind Article 5, the April 23rd, 2007 special town meeting. I move we put that on the warrant.
Motion by Mr. Tropiano, second by Mr. Holmes. Mr. Sullivan, do we have any issues with the change, moving the funds, rescinding, borrowing? Do we have any issue with rescinding the funds that we borrowed originally for the...
Facebook, he missed that question. You're bad. Wow.
We had, I think Phase 1, 2, and 3. We were authorized to borrow up to $20 million.
Yep.
And we're now looking to go ahead and basically rescind the authority to borrow whatever balance was left to do.
The sewer commissioners have no appetite to go on with that, so, yeah, rescind the balance.
Any questions from the sewer commissioners,
Nope.
Selectmen? No questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, 500.
I move that we amend sewer commissioners law and town charter.
Second.
Chapter 114, Acts of 2014.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Tropiano, second by Mrs. Whiteside. I'm going to ask town council to give a little input because we haven't done much. This is the sewer commissioner article where there was some issues with the original one that was passed at town meeting. It went to the AG's office for approval. There was some holes left in it which would cause some severe administrative issues and function issues that needed
Actually,
to be
it was the
cleaned up.
legislature voted on this one.
The legislature voted on it, but unfortunately,
We spotted some issues, we got that.
there was
but-
some things when they converted the article over when we voted at town meeting were off.
Yep.
That's why we got it here. We're going to fix it.
We're going to try and fix it.
Yeah.
Mr. Bowen, if you want to give a quick explanation or not.
Sure, Mr. Chairman. What I have done is discuss the matter with the town administrator, and I know a little bit with yourself on it. I've prepared a sample special act to amend some of the things that I think the board had identified as defects. So I guess the issue is, what were the defects? The defects were these. The legislation as it was passed does not seem to recognize certain personnel realities. Number one, that all the personnel under the town charter flows through the town administrator, and it would have separated out the personnel functions from the town administrator to the sewer superintendent. That's one principal issue. Another principal issue has to do with negotiation of collective bargaining agreements. It's my position that Chapter 150E of the general laws makes the Board of Selectmen the sole agent for collective bargaining for the town with all unions. The special act does not comment on it one way or the other, but I think that there are those who might make an argument saying that negotiation power is transferred from the Board of Selectmen to the sewer commissioners. I think that would be wrong, but rather than have to argue about it, what I've done is I've created an amendment that would make it absolutely clear that it's this Board of Selectmen, not a Board of Sewer Commissioners, that acts under Chapter 150E.
Okay. Any questions from the board? Just, Mr. Holmes?
Just real quick, in terms of time frame, so if we put these changes on at town meeting and people vote yes, what's the next step?
We would basically have to go before the House and Senate at the state level to modify the special act. And we would really have to be pushing hard because the election for the new sewer commissioners would be the first week in April, and they would take office the 1st of May.
And that can be done?
Yes.
With Senator Pacheco and Susan Gifford, Representative Susan Williams Gifford is on board this to push?
We would have to make sure that we put a lot of effort into it, yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Is that my copy you gave me, Al?
You can have that. No other questions? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstained? 500.
All right, next, reorganization of town departments. I know that he's working hard on this and wants this to be on there, so let's add this too.
Okay. Mr.
Second.
Sullivan, do you want to have any explanation now or wait till later?
I'd wait till later, and I
Yeah,
appreciate the
let's-
clerk's motion.
You know,
Okay.
we can just add these now,
I'm
and we're gonna
just
have
gonna-
lots of explanation
Second.
later.
I know,
Right.
I just want
Second.
to ask the question ahead of time. Mr. Tropiano made the motion, second by Mr. Holmes. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
This next one is street layout for
500.
Bayshore Way and Lynn Road.
That's still on hold. They have not been able to get the paperwork to the planning board,
Okay.
for the planning board to modify it to us. I'm going to ask if the board would like to I know he's there, but he can't do anything yet. The question we have is, we've held this before and pulled it at town meeting at the last minute because they weren't ready. They're trying to get it done. They have to vote as a organization to do this, homeowners group and stuff, and,
Next week.
well, unfortunately, we can hold off till next Tuesday when we have to close the warrant.
That's right.
So if you want, we'll put this back on for that date. But at that point there, we have to make a decision, because I'm not
Yep.
comfortable sitting there and pulling articles at town meeting.
Well, if it
Just
doesn't
depending how
get
close they are,
to
too.
the planning board, we're not doing it, so.
Okay, next.
Article 14 is this is the Title V septic program. I want to add, I move we add this to the warrant.
Second.
Board of Health program?
Yeah, it's a standard program we put on every October. It's a couple $100,000 that we vote so people can upgrade their system. What happens is the money goes on there, see, it's $200,000. It's an appropriation, but it's not, the town doesn't pay for it. It goes on their bills and on their tax bills, and they pay it. And so it's a-
Motion by Mr. Tropiano,
Second.
second by Mrs. Whiteside. Sorry, dear, I'm not hearing.
Second louder.
Any questions? None heard? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? 500.
Okay, the next is the robotic closed caption TV system for the water pollution control system. I move we put that on the warrant.
Second.
She got that one.
Yes. Motion by Mr. Tropiano, second by Mrs. Whiteside. Any questions? Mr. Sullivan, are you all set with that as well?
Yes.
Yeah.
Mr. Holmes?
I'm just wondering why we haven't already done this. There was a reason we held these, but we're not specifying that reason tonight, so I'm fine.
We didn't have
The
information.
price, is it the price? Okay.
We finally got it.
All right.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? 500.
CPC article, American Legion Hall restoration, $114,543.
Move to put it on the
Move to
warrant.
put it on the warrant.
Second.
Any questions? None heard? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? 500. Motion by Mr. Tropiano, second by Mrs. Whiteside.
Next, CPC Playground Rehabilitation Fund, $75,000
Second.
fund. Move to put it on the warrant.
Motion by Mr. Tropiano, second by Mrs. Whiteside. Any questions? None heard? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? 500.
All right, the next one is, hold on a minute, because I gotta read it. Unallocated CP funds.
Question before we start.
This
Mr.
is the one
Sullivan,
for the
did
Tremont Nail
we go
Company.
ahead last week and vote to go ahead and pay off the Tremont Nail and Bryan
This is,
Farms?
We did.
I thought we did vote on
I
that.
thought so too. That's not, we've already approved
We already
that.
did that.
Already approved it?
Yeah, I don't know
Yes.
why it's not checked off.
Maybe we should
Okay,
have a
then that's
conditional
it.
motion in case we forgot.
Patrick?
No, we did.
What,
We
did I
should
miss
go
one?
article, check the community events fund, please.
We haven't
Oh,
done that
yeah.
yet. We have to do that.
You know why? Because it's at the bottom of the page,
It's
I
at the
missed
bottom
it,
of the
sorry.
page, yeah.
All right,
Because
so
I see
community
the,
events
the committee
funds.
is here,
Where?
in case we need them.
To see if the town will vote to petition the legislature for special legislation acts.
Yeah, it's number 22 in the new one.
Okay,
And the reason it came back was so that we would put a cap or a special request. Do you have the updated article?
this was,
Did you submit the updated article
Yes.
to the town?
You just voted on it in our meeting.
But did you submit it to the town, to the office, so that it's on this agenda?
No, we were just told on behalf.
So you don't have
Put
an
it on next
updated
week.
article?
Put it on next week. We don't have the updated.
Yeah,
request.
we need the
We need
the
the-
actual.
Mr. Chairman, if
language
you
of
would,
the
if you would
article.
share with the committee what the
I already-
instructions are.
No, I already did. I filed it. with
Oh,
the
you did
office.
it?
Yeah.
Okay. So it is there. Okay, so where is it?
Here it is. This article, look, on the, do you want me to read it into the record, just so we all know what we're talking about here?
Yeah.
If you have the updated one.
Well, let me check that.
You don't have the
Mr.
updated.
Titlebaum, that one doesn't have the.
No, I
that's
don't
a-
have the updated
yeah.
one. I've got the original one.
We need to have that.
wait till next week.
Next week.
The
Move
new
on.
one is supposed to have the cap with a dollar
That's
figure or a
correct.
cap on a percentage
correct.
figure.
All right, moving on.
You've submitted it, so we
No, I
didn't
just,
get it.
well,
So they've sat here all night.
Mr. Chair, do we want to bring them up to go over it and then we
yeah,
can?
why
bring
don't we? I
Why
mean,
don't we
this
just,
is- They can talk about it.
Susan has a copy of it as well. I mean, I did drop it off at the office.
Right, but at least
You were recited as having voted on it in the paper, so I'm guessing you know what it's all about, too.
Yes.
So I
I
think we
could
can get an
make-
explanation and then vote next week technically on the language.
No, I mean, if
'Cause
we're
I don't
all
wanna
set-
make 'em
if
come
we're all
back.
set, we're all set, but I don't want to make them come back again. I mean,
Well,
if they
that-
Yeah,
voted-
exactly.
If they voted to cure our issue with the article to begin with, then I don't see them having to come back every night.
Do you have a copy of
Yeah.
that right now with you?
Rich,
At least let Mr.
Yeah.
Chairman, I would
Should
at
have a
least
copy of
ask
this
Mrs.
computer.
Ritchie to come up and explain what the committee did.
no, I'm going to do that.
Because we can vote to move it forward. We're not voting on the article, we're just voting to put it on the warrant. And she's gonna tell us what they voted on, because that's what we asked her to do. Maybe we can take care of it today. At least so they don't have to come back and sit here for another 3 hours.
That special act with Jimmy did. It was supposed to be permanent. Jimmy screwed up on the word. So they want to come back and try and get it put back in place. Then you vote no. That's your call. No, because
Mr. Chairman, Attorney Bowen's making copies for us now. One can go in the packet for the office to get actually onto the warrant, because they have the language available.
Maybe we could just ask Mrs. Ritchie to read the article for us. Does
Yeah.
you not have a copy, Susan?
Why don't we move on to the next one to put on the, we don't have
Yeah,
anything
that's
else?
Well, this was it.
Okay.
Yes,
Thank
you do. You have the school articles on there. Articles 32, 33, and 34.
Articles non-existent, non-existent, and also non-existent. What the heck do I have here? How'd he get them? Oh, yeah, yeah. Do you want me to speed read this baby into the record, Patrick? Yeah, okay.
With your permission, Mr. Chairman, I'll read it. Okay. See if the town will vote to petition the legislature for special legislation amending Section 2 of Chapter 82 of the Acts of 2008 to allow for the deposit of 25% of the proceeds of the Wareham Parking Meter Fund into the Community Events Fund and 20% of the excise collected under Section 3A of the General Laws, Chapter 64G, also known as the Hotel and Motel Tax, as of the effective date of this act and for the subsequent fiscal years, but in no event earlier than July 1st, 2015. And further, in no event shall the amount in the aggregate in the Community Events Fund for any fiscal year exceed $60,000 or take any other action relative thereto.
Okay, so moved.
I'll second for discussion, but I do have questions for the petitioner. Hi. Through you, Mr. Chairman, my question is, how much have you spent in the last several years, presuming that you started in 2008? And I just want to inform you that I did, in fact, watch the entire presentation, CD presentation of Articles 27 and 28 from that April 2007 town meeting. So I've heard all of the information that was given at that town meeting. Now I would like to have you simply answer the question, how much money have you actually spent in the past 5 years, by year?
I have a printout that I can share with you.
I just want a total number for each year, please.
We have it from 2010 to 2014. That's what we've been able to.
That's fine.
Okay. 2010, 42,252. 2011, 41,239. 2012, 64,670. 2013, 42,000.
No, next one, 62.
Oh, pardon me?
The next.
Yeah, 62,300. And 2014, we had requests for 56, but we only could award 30,000 because we didn't 30,410 because we didn't have enough money in the account.
May I continue with my questions? Thank you. My understanding was that this, although it may not be a revolving fund, that it was, I'll use the term, seed money to continue community activities.
Right.
So without asking you to explain whether it's a revolving fund the way I understand it or not, where does the money actually come from?
The money actually comes back from the state, from the. That's the way.
The hotel motel
motel
excise comes back from the state into a segregated account, and then the parking funds are our own, but they get transferred out of the parking meter fund into the community events fund.
That's how it was set up originally, and that's, you know, the purpose. It never came to the town. It came into that particular fund, which they set up. So it wasn't commingled with any other funds.
Okay. So, and can you please just give me the total numbers for the year 2010? How many events, projects, or whatever did you fund? Please, just the number. I'm going to ask that for each of those years.
Okay, wait a minute. 15.
For 2010?
Mm-hmm.
And for 2011?
15.
12?
16. 13?
Please,
Okay.
sorry.
13 and 16, I thought.
16 again.
And 14?
15.
Thank you. May I ask how many grants you have received? Because that was also part of the original article, grants and donations. Not names, just
Right.
the
No,
number of grants.
we didn't get any grants per se, but we did get sponsors for certain portions of these events.
But that's not the way the article was written. So you had no grants.
Mm-mm.
Thank you.
I don't know what that means.
May I ask a question? What do you mean by grants? I mean, something that we also went outside of the community events?
The way the original
Yeah.
article was written, you could accept grants from wherever.
But we never pursued that because we always seemed to have enough.
I'm just
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
These were called.
Just one question.
Applied for grants.
I don't know. No,
In
that's
either
not
12 or 13, one of those years when the payout, if you will, was in excess of
Right.
$60,000. Isn't 21,000 of that money that you initially pre-funded for the kiosks? I think the first kiosk purchase?
Right.
And I guess my next question is to Mr. Sullivan. Has the town reimbursed community events for that at this point?
We have not.
You have not. So that remains an expense that you've made.
Right.
I'll ask Mr. Sullivan, are there any plans for the town to reimburse community events for that, or are we just leaving that as a kindly gift from community events?
There obviously will be a request for that as their funding is drying up, let's say, and the seed money, it was basically it was an excellent thing for them to do for the town, and it's created the opportunity that we have today from the parking kiosk money, and we wouldn't have had it without them. So.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to clarify that. Doing some very rudimentary math here, I'm coming up with about $240,000 spent over the past 5 years. If I divide 240 by 5, I get just under 50,000, probably 40, let me see, 39, 5, 47, just about $48,000 a year. In the last 2 years, you spent about $92,000. So that would be about $46,000 a year. I guess what I would ask, and it's certainly going to be a question you're going to hear late in October, is why 60 and not 48?
That is a good question, but we've had other people step to the plate this past year saying that they wanted to submit requests for funding, but it was beyond the deadline. There were some other nonprofit organizations that said that they would like to have some, events, and they'd like to be supported. It's strictly for promoting and marketing. That's strictly what it is. Whether any kind of advertising, we want tourism to come. The businesses need the tourisms to come to the area, especially the beach areas. And that's, that's basically what.
And thank you, Mr. Chairman. As I'm reading through this, I actually think that we did the opposite of what I was trying to get to, and unless someone else has a different opinion than I have. Last week when we talked about this, we talked about setting our cap on it.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, the way this turned out, you get 25% and then 20%, right? When you set a cap on how much that is at 60,000, that's not where I was going. Because if I ask Mr. Sullivan right now, as I did last week, his answer to me was, I believe, based on the numbers, you're never going to get to $60,000.
No.
That's just not going to happen. What was the numbers you gave us last week?
Yeah, not this fiscal year, but the
28?
Yeah, after this, not this fiscal year, but the following year, once the hotel motel excise kicks in from the Marriott, you're looking at 165,000, most likely in hotel motel excise. So 20% of that's at 33,000, and then from the.
So you think that in 2 years we might get to the 60? We won't get to it this year.
No, not this year. In 2 years, I think it's a strong
See what I'm saying?
possibility.
You see where I was trying to go last week when we were talking about this? Was if you wanted 60,000 for your annual deposit, you came back with the wrong formula again. Am I the only one who sees that? They're not going to get 60 here, based on the numbers. They want to get 60,000 for this year's events. And I'm not saying that's the right number or the wrong number. All I'm saying is, with this formula and the actual numbers that we take in, they're never going to hit 60. Well, that's what we're talking about, is this coming fiscal year.
This program, understand, continues on. The problem we had is the previous program as written didn't have a constant funding mechanism.
All right. No, it's fine with me, because there is a formula now, there is a cap in place. I was just thinking that we were gonna see something different and try
Mr.
to get
Tropiano?
closer to the 60.
All right, so,
All right.
this is gonna be wildly unpopular, but
I got the little tree with the hanging nooses.
Huh?
I got that little
you
tree
got a
for
noose that hang on the tree out there? Because they're probably gonna hang me after this, but I'm sorry, you know, if we could come up with $60,000, that might be somebody's paycheck. As time goes on next year, we're gonna be cutting again. And the year after that, we're gonna be cutting again. And the year after that, we're gonna be cutting again. The town has decided not to give us any more money and to make us live within whatever dollars we have. And $60,000 could be somebody's paycheck. And, I can't support this. I wouldn't put it on. I wouldn't put 1 cent in this account. If the businesses want to have a way to bring in tourism, let them step up to the plate, put some money together, and go ahead and bring in some business, bring in some tourism. If these, you know, the whole purpose, and we actually have a policy, and my friend over here, Mr. Holmes, was really adamant about it, that we don't spend any of the parking revenues for these events. And basically, that's what we're doing. We're taking money out of the parking revenue and giving it back to the events. As far as the hotel motel tax is concerned, you know, we got a hotel coming. We're gonna get a good chunk of money. It's probably gonna help save a lot of jobs, the $160-some-odd-thousand for a while, because it'll recur every year. It'll be a nice piece of change, and it'll help some of our problems as far as funding goes. But right now, this town is in crisis mode. I don't know, people don't seem to understand it, and I don't know why we don't understand it, but we're in crisis mode, and what we're trying to do is try to keep the stuff that we have alive. And, you know, these things are great, and when you have money, I have no problem with it. If we had the money, we could probably do some of this stuff, but we don't.
May I respond?
You may.
Okay.
ahead.
One of the things I would like you to understand is the businesses, the downtown businesses depend on the events to support their businesses. We're concerned. I don't want to see what we saw a number of years ago, boarded up storefronts, because they didn't have any people, you know, as customers, because there was no activity and there was nothing going on. We're getting to the point where one of the bigger buildings in the center was purchased, and they're going to probably put another type of business in there. But if there's no events and there's no activities, there's not going to be any support. When this was set up, and it was Jimmy Potter, former selectman, he fine-tuned it because he knew the money was going into the state. Not all the communities took advantage of this. This goes back to Joe Murphy days. Not all the communities took advantage of this. The governor at that time said that they wanted to set up programs for tourism in southeastern Massachusetts. Wareham stepped to the plate, Plymouth stepped to the plate, Sandwich stepped to the plate, Falmouth stepped to the plate, and Yarmouth stepped to the plate. Those were the communities that, when the excise tax came in, you know, they were able to, as long as we followed their criteria, they were able to bring it back to the towns that raised their hand. This was ongoing, but what happened is, after the first Visitors Services Committee, what happened was they then, at the end of the fiscal year, if there was money left over, it went into the general fund. Instead of saying, rolling it over for the following year so we could have a little jump start. This was what we were hoping from year to year, have a jump start. Because each year, the biggest events we have that brings the biggest crowds is the fireworks. Volunteer groups raise the money for the fireworks. Community events sponsors the services from the town. The police, the fire we don't do it. The EMS, the harbor master, municipal maintenance to the tune of $16,000. That's the biggest chunk of this money goes so that big event can happen in the town of Wareham. It just happens that the fireworks are in onset. And then the next event, that was a big event too, was the illumination night, draws crowds from everywhere. We don't have to pay for services for that. It's only for the fireworks. So if we don't have 16,000, and the people don't raise the money for the fireworks, and they're all volunteers, there's many, many volunteers, given many hours of their time, and they really have done it for years and years. And if it doesn't happen, then the businesses are going to be affected by it, and they won't be happy, because
Well-
that's the biggest chunk of their income is from Memorial Day to Columbus Day. And after
Well-
that, the downtown businesses, doesn't happen.
Well, I get that, but, you know, the businesses are making money, and they need to step up to the plate and make those things happen. We can't afford to subsidize their incomes. We can't.
What I'm saying, though,
And
is
that
it's
money,
not like
by
they
the
don't
way-
have year-round businesses.
Let
They
me-
have seasonal businesses.
Let me make clear to you, too, the money that comes from the hotel motel tax goes to the state, but then comes back to us. That money, if it came back to us, would go back to our general fund, not into this particular kitty. See, it would go back to the general fund where it could be used for salaries and whatever else that we have that are necessary. We've got tightening issues in the school department. We have tightening issues every place. And there's just no place for this. Frankly, I don't know that you're going to have any place for fireworks. You know, every community is canceling fireworks, not just us. Matter of fact, if I'm not mistaken, Falmouth just announced that they're canceling their fireworks. Because there's just
But their town,
no
their
money.
downtown area is very vibrant because they've got a little bit of a jump start.
Well, but
They
there's
were,
just
they were like
no
us
money.
maybe about 15 or 20 years ago, and now if you go downtown, they have tables and chairs outside. They encourage tourists, and that's what we need. We're a tourist town. We should encourage it, and we should support the business. That's my personal
There's no money to support it, ma'am. I'm sorry. There's no money. We have no money. In a few years, we're going to be in receivership in this town. I've been telling people this. Everybody doesn't understand it. We think we're lying for some reason or another. No, I don't think we're off the track. I think it's something that needs to be talked about.
Mrs. Whiteside?
Yes, I just would like to make a couple of observations. Again, I watched the presentation in the original Articles 27 and 28, 2007. At that time, many speakers allowed us how they had held the buckets for the toll booths, for the fireworks, et cetera. On the list of things that Mr. Potter presented for continuation was the Christmas parade. We don't have it. The 4th of July parade. We don't have it. The Veterans Day and the Memorial Day parades. So those are statements. And then I have a question, which I've heard Mr. Slavin say, and I've heard somebody else say. The original article was to fund only for 1 year. Is that correct or not correct? I would like an answer to that question.
The original article, as written, was written with the idea, if you look at it, to fund continuously. The way it was actually written, it only had a mechanism for 1 year.
So we have been funding something not according to the letter of the law, but according to the spirit of how it was presented.
Correct.
And each year at town meeting, there was money transferred from that account at town meeting and voted by the voters of the town to fund it. So I mean, if it was a legal thing, we were unaware of it. It wasn't until it was pointed out this year. We were unaware of it, and it was always in good faith that we provided the funding, for these particular programs.
I don't think you did anything wrong.
I'm not accusing you of anything. I'm just making...
Right, exactly. And it was brought to our attention, and so we were trying to figure out how to get around it because, as I said, tourism is a big part of what the town needs to support the businesses. And it doesn't make any, whether it's downtown or it's the back road, because everybody asked, what is the schedule? What are the events going to be? A lot of the, I mean, it was something ongoing. And if you say to them, there's not going to be any more events, I'd like to see, you know, how people are going to feel about that.
Any other comments? We have a motion and a second? Yeah, we did. Mr. Titlebaum made a motion, and Mrs. Whiteside seconded it. All those in favor accepting the article?
Aye.
No.
Aye. All those opposed?
Yeah, opposed.
Abstain? Mrs. Whiteside, didn't hear you vote.
We'll vote to put it before the public.
Vote is 4-1-0. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, so next is replace inclined wheelchair lift at the Minot Forest School. I move we add that to the...
Motion by Mr. Tropiano, second by, it's a new version,
Yes.
number 32. These are the 3 school articles that were never submitted to us. Okay.
To see if the town will vote to appropriate, borrow, or transfer from available funds an amount of money to be expended under the direction of the Wareham School Committee for the installation of a new inclined wheelchair lift for Minot Forest School. This project will include the removal of the existing lift and installation of a new lift. There's no money attached to it at this point.
Mr. Sullivan, could
Guessing there
you
will be.
assist us on that?
I believe the estimate is between 45 and 50,000 for that item.
Do we know where the funding's coming from for that?
This would have to be from free cash.
Free cash?
One-time expense.
Do we have the free
legitimate
cash?
expense.
Yes.
We don't have it. Free cash isn't certified till it's certified by the Department of Revenue, and we do for the first time in many, many years, although Selectman Tropiano will tell you it used to be all the time, where we have the goal of having free cash certified before the October town meeting. That's why you see the capital plans and these items on there.
So as long as we have the free cash certified before, the article will be valid. If it's not, then we don't have the funding available through DOR for that article.
Right, my recommendation would be that we withdraw it, otherwise it could potentially upset our tax rate setting.
Okay, I guess we're going to have to put something on with the idea of if the funding's not in place, withdrawing. Any other questions?
Should the motion be conditional?
Motion should be conditional. But it
Well-
actually really doesn't matter because it's in or
Conditional
out.
to
No,
I have a
it
question.
goes
what? Be
on.
conditional.
I have a question.
Go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, that's true.
Between $45,000 and $50,000, what did the school think it was coming from? Or where did the school think it was coming from? Can somebody answer that question for me, please?
Yes, it's the same as our capital plan, it's from free cash.
And do they have any idea at the present time what the free cash position is, even though it may be a non-certified?
No, none of us have that, any idea.
So, may I, if there are 3 articles, may I ask this question, Mr. Chairman? Are there
Go ahead.
3 dollar amounts coming before us?
No, only one.
Thank you.
That's the one. The next 2 are...
I believe, just so you know, there was an article for the school buses and they pulled out
Correct.
because there was no
Yeah.
funding.
In working with the school business manager, I have to be honest, if they didn't bring this forth as an article, we're still bringing it forward in front of the capital planning committee. It would be part of my capital plan that I would be presenting. It's something that I don't think we can not address if we have the funds to address it.
Another ADA?
Correct.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay, motion was by,
Me.
second by?
I'll
anyone?
second it.
Second by Mrs. Whiteside. Any other questions? None heard, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? 500.
The next one is the return of Ethel Hammond School to town control. Move we put that on the warrant.
Motion by Mr. Tropiano, second by,
I'll second it, and then I have a question for town council.
go ahead.
Sir? My memory is that the Hammond School has a deed restriction which requires it to be used for educational purposes. Am I correct? Just say yes, because I am.
Yes.
Well, it's being used for education.
I want that on the record, that if the town takes it over from the school, that we need to be cognizant of the fact that there is that deed restriction.
Correct.
Well, if that's the case, and this is a flawed article, why would we vote to put it on?
It's not flawed. Why is it flawed? So what? That doesn't mean they can't give it back to us. We just have to follow the deed restriction.
Mr. Bowen, please. We've discussed this one before a while ago.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Last week, we raised issues concerning this particular property and the West Wareham School building with the school administration to get more information. Yesterday afternoon, Mr. Sullivan and I received their answers, and with respect to the Hammond, they said that the only thing that they were able to find was that it was taken in fee and that the school building was built in 1921. Obviously, we'll need to look at that a little bit more. With respect to, and if you'll forgive me jumping ahead, Mr. Chairman, with respect to the West School, there is a reverter in which the Tremont Nail Factory reserves the right and option to repurchase the lot at a price equivalent to the price that any other reasonable party or party shall offer to pay for the same.
Is that us now?
I
So
don't
we can have one piece of crap by another piece of crap, great.
Yeah. There's nothing clear.
So, this is as of yesterday afternoon. Obviously, I think we need to look at these two a little bit more.
So at this point here, what we're saying is neither one of these articles are valid right now.
Mr. Chairman, maybe we could withdraw the motion in the second and come back to them next week. I think we need to do some kind of rudimentary title search at least to figure out what the heck they are, because we can't take these buildings and think that we're going to go sell them off only to just lose them and get no cash value out of them if some heir pops up and says, hey, wait a minute, you just violated the term of great-grandma's gift.
Yeah,
But no, the deed is very specific on the Hammond.
Have you seen the deed?
Yes, I've seen a photocopy of it. Yes, sir.
Okay, so if it says that it must be used for education, which, by the way, I would say the Boys and Girls Club is education, that means if it reverts to us, we take it back. It doesn't matter whether the school department holds it or we hold it. We just have to make sure that the use of it is being used properly. That's all. That's all there is to it. I mean, it doesn't really make it right. Am I right on this?
Mr. Bowen, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Title discussions, I know, make for fascinating television.
Yeah.
And are really wonderful for late nights.
Just give me a gun and shoot me.
Yeah, especially if you're having trouble sleeping. Let me just say this. On the Hammond School, the original acquisition was for school purposes, and that's the reason that we acquired the property. So the question really is, does that mean that because we acquired it for school purposes, that it reverts to someone else if we don't use it for school purposes? I don't believe that that is the case, but I will go back and look at this again. And I know we reviewed this issue back about a year ago when we were considering some alternate uses for the Hammond School by other agencies. I'll go back and take another look at it. On the West Wareham School building, frankly, this information is coming in so late in the game that I haven't had a chance to look at the deeds on that, but I have no doubt that certainly by Thursday, certainly by next Tuesday's meeting,
all right,
we'll have that one nailed down.
I'll reschedule both these articles for that particular date,
We'll wait.
33 and 34.
We've got a motion and a
I
second.
withdraw the
I'd ask
motion.
withdrawal of both, please. Mr. Whiteside, withdrawal.
Did I second it?
Did you second it? Oh, Peter.
No, I was
Selectman Whiteside seconded for discussion.
That's right.
Excuse me, I withdraw
I
my
withdrew
second.
it, yeah.
Okay.
All right, next up is discussion setting the next joint meeting. We gotta kind of move along, guys, because we're gonna run into time problems. Discussion setting next joint meeting with the FinCom and school committee.
We received all, I believe, an email today from the chairman of the Finance Committee stating that they would like to hold off having any joint meetings till after they get all the warrant articles vetted and favorable action votes, et cetera, go through, which would probably be the end of October. So I would say at this point, maybe we talk to the school committee only, and we meet with the school committee and continue on our 2016 budget. I'll reach out to them and see what they have to say.
I agree, because ultimately it's the town administrator and the selectmen who set the budget priorities for the town side, and it's the school committee that does the same for the school side. So there's no reason why those two bodies can't get together with the respective administrator and superintendent and talk about things, at least the parameters for how we're going to set it up going forward.
Yeah,
Just have a brief meeting.
Yeah.
If the FinCom wants to hold off, then that's fine.
What normally happens is November and December, because of holidays, et cetera, before you know it, we're in January, and the town administrator, with the change in the dates, has to present a budget.
Well,
At
present
that
something
point,
anyway. I don't know if I'd call it a budget.
Well,
but
it's best, it's...
that's what the charter calls for.
It's the best, so therefore, it'd be nice to have a little better game plan. So I'll work on that one. Next one, please.
Discussion and vote to have combination meetings with the FinCom as concerns.
Review a vote of actual
Review,
town.
vote
That's
on actual town meeting warrant
The
article.
idea of that was discussed last year, to try and meet possibly together, so we don't have to have all these different departments and committees come in and discuss their articles for favorable, so that they have to do it twice. The idea was that they present once, everybody hears the same thing, and we vote on the same piece. We don't have to vote favorable action at that time if we don't want, or do they, but it would be a more effective way to do it. It's up to the board if you'd like to try that. The note from the FinCom back was on September 24th, they would be meeting, and we could possibly meet with them on that particular day for some of the, to come through. If not, we do it on our own, but I'd
This
like
would
it.
be a nightmare.
It's up to the board. It's just an idea to make it easier for the people who have to come in. Because they'd be here on a Tuesday night, they could be the following night on Wednesday at the FinCom.
I don't, for me, I don't see it. I think it'd be too much work.
Steve?
Too many people in the room, too many questions to
Does that
ask.
affect you?
It'd take all night to get through anything.
I know we've done it before, that's why I asked.
Previously, we did it on a Saturday.
What's the
We
pleasure of the
previously
board?
did, when we did it previously, we did it on a Saturday, didn't we? Yeah, Saturday morning.
Yeah.
Let's see it.
Pleasure of the board, Mr.
Makes for the vote at town meeting more accurate, because now you have the board of selectmen and the FinCom hearing the same thing. You have two separate meetings, you don't hear the same thing. They may have voted on something.
Steve.
So, other towns do it, makes it easy. We tried it,
Yeah.
made it easy.
Yeah.
I don't understand what the big deal against it is.
Mr. Titlebaum, yes, no?
Yeah,
This
I
White-
don't see a huge
Pull it
problem
off,
with it.
I'd go
It
along
might
with
turn
it.
out to be a long night, but at least we get it banged out in one
Mrs.
night.
Whiteside? Mrs.
Excuse me,
Tropiano, still
wonderful.
no?
I mean, I don't care. I mean, if that's what everybody wants to do, I'll go along with it. But I think
right.
it's gonna be a long night.
Yes, it will be. I will go ahead and work on that also. Next.
Yeah, we did it on a Saturday morning, I think.
It's gonna be a long day.
No, we cut it off. We had set hours.
You ain't kidding.
Kept people short. We had set hours.
All right, next up is discussion and vote to amend the Board of Selectmen's liquor policy to include insurance requirements.
This is the issue that came up when we decided that we had certain dollar amounts required for the town of Wareham to be indemnified for liquor liability. And when I started to look into it, I found all kinds of loopholes everywhere. So Mr. Bowen has put together a policy, which I think he gave everybody to look at. This is Whiteside.
I think that the work that was prepared by Mr. Bowen addresses the issues that we had, puts all of the information in one place, and is clear, concise, and that we should in fact adopt it. And I'll make that a motion.
Second.
Mr. Holmes?
On the question, real quick, if I'm an existing liquor, I have a bar,
Mhm.
right? I have a full year-round liquor license. Come December, when I come in for my renewal, this policy will go into effect.
Correct.
And I will need to have, I would fall under the 250
You follow the 250.
to the death of, of injury to or death of one person,
And 500.
and 500 on an accident,
Right.
right?
That's,
what I'm being asked to produce.
and that follows the state guidelines that are required by the Alcoholic Beverage Commission.
And all of those application forms have already been prepared and sent out to the people who would need to be renewing them.
So to the bar owners who have been calling me and asking me where this $1 million number is coming from, that is not true for our bar owners.
No, these are for pouring licenses. We went ahead and went through, we were charging 1 million, 2 million, we were doing different things before. Maya gave us a figure of 1 million, 3 million, and, you know, a single aggregate, and that had to do with strictly on town property, which is itemized in
There's a
number
big
2.
difference in the cost of 250, 500.
Oh, there's a huge difference.
Than there is to purchase $1 million. And more than one bar owner is out right now trying to get their insurance companies to give them $1 million policy because of some email that came out of our office.
We sent out the original email based on what Maya had sent us, and we sent back a note rescinding that several weeks ago.
Well, I would suggest that we get in touch with, put a notice out ASAP to these business owners, because they're out trying to buy $1 million policies, and if we're not requiring that, and what I said to them, my answer to them was, don't buy anything until after Tuesday, because this is on the agenda.
I believe.
So we have people that have some miscommunication here, and that's a big dollar
But if
amount.
we adopt this tonight, then this would be part of the package that would be sent out by our clerical staff and tomorrow, and they will have
And
3
that will
months.
correct the email that was just sent out recently.
That's correct.
They've actually sent an email out after the first one telling
That
them to
was
hold off.
correcting it.
Because that second one apparently didn't get through to someone.
Okay, I know it was sent out because I still didn't watch it happen. Mr. Bone.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. To the bar owners and so forth that were concerned about the insurance, they most likely have this level of insurance in place
Already.
right now because
Already.
it's required by the law. So the big administrative difference that I see coming out of this is that when the packages come in, Ms. Oldfield or whoever happens to look at it as they come in will be looking for a copy of that insurance binder before the licenses are sent on to you for renewal. Because technically, they shouldn't be coming to you for renewal unless that binder is part of their renewal package.
Perfect. That sounds perfect.
And just as an update for our friends over at the Buzzards Bay Playhouse, under the single-day licenses on, obviously not on town property, they are also covered under the $250,000, $500,000, which follows state guidelines as well. And we were actually asking them for 1 million, 3 million as little as a month ago, based on what Maya's information was. So this should basically satisfy everybody and get it all straightened out once and for all.
Could
So-
I ask that this, if we approve it, it should be on our website someplace, some accessible, I don't know whether our liquor policy is online, but certainly this ought to be available to the
Yeah,
public.
this has to go online now.
ASAP.
I would agree. And Shirley, if you're listening, it's 1.20 liquor license indemnity insurance policy. We'll give you a copy as well tonight. Take a motion to approve it then?
It's already been there.
Oh, yeah? Who voted? Thank you.
We just need to take
Mo-
a vote.
I was on the
You call for the vote.
Motion by, was who?
I made the motion.
I seconded it.
Thank you. Motion by Mrs. Whiteside, second by Mr. Tropiano. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained. 500.
All right, next up is the
This goes
agreement.
in your folder for them.
Put it in.
Okay.
The next up is the agreement between the Department of Housing and Community Development. And
It's a standard form.
it's a standard form. I make a motion that we approve the agreement and authorize the chairman to sign it.
Second.
Just as an aside, I'm hoping that DCHD does a better job representing the town when issues come up. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained, 5-0-0.
All right, any other business not related in the last 48 hours? I mean, not anticipated last 48 hours? Mr. Titlebaum?
None, thank God.
Ms. Whiteside?
No way.
Myself, none. Mr. Holmes? How about you, Mr.
Nope.
Chair?
I'm
Town
good.
Administrator? Anything?
Oh, yes.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
All right, then you're on.
I've been very kind lately, so.
Yeah, okay.
Beginning Monday, September 29th, Town Hall will move to a 4-day work week. This will be achieved by closing Fridays and offering the following expanded business hours. Mondays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays, 8:15 a.m. to 6 p.m. Tuesdays, 8:15 a.m. to 6:30 p.m. We're excited to offer the residents the expanded hours to help them complete their town hall business during the work week. The additional benefits to the town are that we anticipate savings in utility costs by having town hall closed for 3 consecutive days. Items such as beach, dump, and parking passes will still be available 5 days a week in the Harbor Master's office at the Multi-Service Center. I'd like to thank the unions for working with the administration to help give the residents greater access hours to town hall operations.
This is the first of hopefully, not hopefully, but of probably many changes we'll be making in order to streamline our business operation in the town and trying to conserve expenses where we can. Thank you. Any questions by the board? Mr. Titlebaum.
On the one hand, you know, it is going to be great for the citizens. Hopefully, they'll have an opportunity after work to come in here and do business. Won't have to take time away from work during the day to transact business. So in that sense, it's good. You know, however, I think we'd all be fooling ourselves if we didn't say that the true reason for doing this is to try to cut costs. And, you know, it's the cost-benefit analysis probably militates in favor of doing this at this time. I just hope that other departments in town also are looking to save costs and also are looking to make some of the hard decisions that this board and our administrator have made.
Mrs. Whiteside, any comment? Mr. Tropiano?
No, cost cutting is a good thing.
Mr. Holmes?
Long overdue.
Thank you, Mr. Sullivan. No, that wasn't easy to get done.
Thank you. The second item that I have to bring before the board is that last week at a special meeting of the Mayflower Municipal Health Insurance Group, we were formally accepted into the group by a vote of 27-3. There were 3 naysayers, but we're in there. We're in there. And this is one of the other items that we're bringing forward to create more stability with the town and its costs. It's not just the health insurance rates. When you look what's coming down the pike, if you will, with Obamacare, there are so many changes coming. We most likely would have to hire additional staff just to keep up with them. Right now, we have we're self-insured. We have our own fund, our health trust fund, and we have to maintain all the information and make sure with the help of GBS that gets implemented. So I'm very happy that we've been able to get this done and look forward to saving the taxpayers money with this.
Thanks. That was a lot of work to get that done. I know that.
All right, is
Awesome
that it?
savings.
That's it.
You done?
No.
No?
Unfortunately, today, as you know, they've been working on the library, installing the
The new
doors
windows.
and windows. The very last window, as it's wont to be, was opened up, taken out, and the absolute rot and ant damage was essentially devastating on there.
How bad's the wall?
Today I authorized them to continue on to figure out what the extent of the damage and the replacement is. However, when we bid that out, it was for every dollar that we had appropriated in that town meeting article. So we're going to have to see where the costs are going to come from to pay for this. There's no way we can just tarp that up and leave the opening on the side of the library.
Does this qualify under emergency repair?
It would essentially be emergency repair on there.
You could get money from Finance Committee.
I can get money
Reserve
from the
fund.
Finance Committee Reserve Fund on there, and if we had to go into deficit on it with the letter, we could seek from the Department of Revenue.
Yeah.
As of right now, as I've said, I've authorized them to continue on the work to just get a change order and see what the actual costs are going to be.
So we have carpenter ants inside?
Yes, they were.
Well, thanks for all the good news.
Well, I gave you the good ones first.
Yeah, I'm going to say most likely on that particular piece there, you're probably going to find a similar situation elsewhere in that building because those modern-style windows back in the late 90s, or actually early 90s, were prone to basically have water run into the sills and get trapped and rot out. And it's, in the area there, and there's a lot of ants and stuff there too.
We were lucky. This was literally the last section that they were doing.
Yeah. You might find some more areas that you haven't discovered though later on.
Yeah.
You may want to bring someone in just to check the building.
We'll have them look into that.
The thing with the vines growing on it, what do you call that thing?
Yeah.
In the courtyard, that's just an invitation for critters.
Okay, next up.
It's their super highway.
I'm sorry.
You done?
No.
You're not
we-
done?
No, we
This
got
is
more
the
to
longest
go.
one you'll
Not
see
at
now.
all.
It's been 2 weeks.
You'll see last week, if you noticed, you saw people working on the old town hall again. The organization that we had hired to do the work had not properly painted it to sufficient capacity for the municipal maintenance director. They sprayed on the paint instead of painting it on per the contract. He required them to come back, scrape it, and repaint it by brush. There was no additional cost for that. So if you wonder what some of our employees, whether they're looking out for the town, that's one of the sure examples that we were not going to pay one dime until we got that done correctly.
Thank you.
This is the parking kiosk, the August report. The total August revenue was $51,176.75. The same time period last year for August was $35,906.75, so a difference of over $15,000. The total for FY14 through the end of August is $132,351.25. The greatest amount, just the pier itself, has brought in approximately $95,000. The greatest year ever out of the pier was $65,000 alone.
Yeah. And that doesn't include the parking tickets.
That does not include the parking ticket revenue. And the last item I have is that we have begun sending our documents with all the adjustments to Powers and Sullivan to begin the audit as required. So we're taking some positive steps. Thank you.
All right,
When
next up.
When you have a chance, we need updated financials as we go along. I think we're a month or so behind. When you
Next
have
up,
time.
liaison reports. Mr. Titlebaum.
Oh, Mr. Chairman, 1 second, Pat, please. We had some issues of illegal operations that you were to check into last week after I went to the hospital. Could we get a quick recap on that, a quick update, where that stands with you and Mr. Bowen?
Yes, we did have the sergeant from the shift go down to the operation, as well as town council was present upon the site. They were not able to produce a license at the time. They said that another gentleman was coming down that had the license. He has not shown, and we are taking the next steps that we need to.
Which might be.
I don't think that would be probably appropriate for the open session right now.
You probably want to check upstairs with Shirley tomorrow. I believe there's an application that's going to be up for us to vote for a junk license, which I...
Next week, can we put that on as an executive so we can get an update?
It's actually a regular item for us next Tuesday.
Put your mic on, Steve.
Well, if we can't get an update in open session, we need to get the update in executive
You
session?
can get an update if that's the license. It's 30-something Cranberry Highway. So it might be that particular one. I have to check.
I just want to make sure we're getting an update, because to allow operations to operate without licenses, I'm not sure that's too good a thing. Why do we have to wait 2 weeks to tell somebody to keep operating without a license?
So somebody was not able to produce a license, and now we have an application for the license? What am I missing here?
I know we have an application that came in because I got an email on it just, I think, on Friday or Monday. But
Well, was it a fact that the license was paid for with the bad check or not?
No.
Was that not correct information?
I don't have that information.
Mr. Bowen and I were actually, I was coming back from the Mass Maritime Academy, seeing our Congressman
building
Keating.
inspector and our housing agent, our building inspector has been trying to get a license on this building for months.
I'm just letting you know that we were
and
there.
We allow the business to continue to operate without a license.
Let me explain.
Mr. Trapiano's worried about revenue.
We were, Mr. Bowen was physically at the facility last week. I happened to be coming by, and I stopped in because I saw him standing out there with a police officer. I stopped in. The owner of the business was not there. There were two gentlemen there. They did not have access to a license. The gentleman was supposed to come back and bring a license back there. The policeman was going to be getting that information back. I don't know where it stands, except we didn't have a license at that time.
We have a bylaw, Mr. Chairman,
I'm not
that the
disagreeing.
license is supposed to be on premises,
We're not
not in somebody's back pocket or in their house.
We're not disagreeing. We're just telling you what happened.
And he's still operating without a license.
He was operating today when I went by,
Without a license.
as far as I know.
That makes no sense to me, I'm sorry.
Understand?
Sorry if I raised
All
my
set?
voice.
All set.
But
It's
that
okay.
just makes no sense.
Liaison reports, Mr. Titlebaum.
None from this country.
Ms. Whiteside.
No, thank you.
Mr. Holmes.
No, thanks, Ben.
Myself,
We'll make
we
it
will
better.
be doing our thing next week, and I have a meeting tomorrow, so, no.
Doing
Yes,
our thing?
Yeah, next week.
That's sewer?
You're on, yes.
All right, just a few things.
I would have bet.
Planning board met last night.
Do you sleep at these places?
Yes. Snow and Jones building across from the Miners School is being rehabbed and redeveloped, and the plan came last night for that. Best Friends Preschool, they had a few issues which they're finally able to finish cleaning up, so they'll be getting their final occupancy permit. They had a temporary. They're going to rent out pieces of the building. They're rehabbing the whole building, and they're going to rent out offices, et cetera. They're going to develop it for reuse instead of just sitting there empty. That's G. and Kohler and Company. Also, the S&H Realty, which is the piece of land in front of where the Walmart's going to go. They had to make a change a little bit in the site plan on the roadway to comply. They've got to go before the ZBA, I think, tomorrow, and hopefully there'll be some action there. I was downstairs at the building office this morning going through, and the Rosebrook looks like they've signed an agreement of some type with Five Guys Hamburgers for a Five Guys hamburger to locate in the Rosebrook Park. And I believe it's a 3-building complex, so there's probably 2 other restaurants going in or something like that as well. But at least one of them is definitely a Five Guys as of this morning. And that's all I got.
All right. On the consent agenda, I have one bill. Oh, we don't need to pay this one.
Yeah, we do.
It's a bill for Mr. Bowen in the amount of $15,000, and I move that we pay him.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Tropiano, second by Mr. Titlebaum. Any
Comment?
questions?
Yes, please. Sir? In the future, could you please total the hours that you have used? On top of the, I know that you give us the hours or the, please. Thank you.
Any other questions? None heard, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? 500.
There's money involved.
Okay, and last on the hit parade is I move we approve the minutes of the regular Selectmen Sewer Commissioners meeting from August the 19th, 2014. Yep.
Need a second? Motion by Mr. Tropiano, second by Mr. Titlebaum. Any questions, any errors, corrections? None heard, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, 5.
Two abstentions.
I think it says everybody was there.
Who wasn't there? Let me double check it. How about that?
Patrick, while you're checking that,
It's right here.
Steve
Three-
and
302.
Okay,
Yeah.
so 302.
while he's checking that, I just need to ask a question, real quick, Mr. Bowen, if you could. With the separation of the Board of Selectmen and the road commissioners, I asked Alan earlier, but I really need a final answer. If I'm going to put up a yield sign, or I want to request a yield sign, or I want to request a stop sign for a roadway in town, who do I go to?
Road Commission.
Road Commission.
Private road?
Oh, well, no, private,
There isn't any.
private road, you don't come to us, the Board of Selectmen, you don't come to the road commissioners. That's your road.
That's right.
You take care of it. But for any public way or private way in public use, if you want to put up a traffic sign, that goes through the road commission.
Okay. Fair enough. That's all I wanted to know.
I
Thank you
have
very much.
one other question, sir. Can we have an update on where the money owed to the town by the Wareham district is?
We can basically go ahead and see where they are. They have filed, I believe, for legislature to pay for it. The only trouble is that the legislature is not in legislature right now. They're out probably till the end of the year, and nothing's happening with the election, so it could be on hold. Just as a quick aside, I didn't do it in the liaison reports. Mary from Senator Pacheco's office did send me notification that they did file with the commission on licenses, the 4 licenses that were required for liquor licenses. They're waiting for a hearing date. There is a chance there will not be a hearing date, and they may have to resubmit the article after the elections, which of course would be at the end of this year. So I've been after them constantly, but that's where it's at.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All in favor? Good night, and good night, Wareham.